right, open session called to order. It is 6:30. Will you all please join me and stand for a moment of silence for our military personnel and first responders who have given the ultimate sacrifice. Thank you for that. Now please join me in prayer. Dear Heavenly Father, thank you so much for this evening, Lord. Thank you that once again we had to come together as a community, Lord, and do the good work of the people, Lord, and let us be guided by your wisdom and all that we do, and remember the importance of that. And in your name, amen. President Burke, would you please lead us in the pledge?
My pleasure. Please put your hand over your heart and join me in I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you for that. Appreciate it. All right, roll call, please. Madam Clerk, can you please conduct the roll call?
Thank you. Councilmember Castillo?
Here.
Councilmember Dane?
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Green?
Here.
Mayor Smith?
Here.
Absent from tonight's meeting is Councilmember Welty.
Thank you so much. Mr. City Attorney, do we have you on the phone?
Yes, we do, Mayor.
Closed session report. Is there anything to report out of closed session?
Yes, Mayor, we have two items. Under item B, initiation of litigation, the City Council directed initiation of litigation by consensus. The City Council also added an item to the closed session agenda under existing litigation, Richard Beck v. City of Canyon Lake. The City Council approved the defense of the lawsuit by consensus. That's the end of the report, Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. City Attorney. We appreciate that. All right, approval of City Council agenda. Mr. City Manager, any changes you would like to add?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, we need to add one urgency item, an item that came up following the posting of the agenda. We'll add that as item number 14 under business items.
Perfect. Item 14 is what I got down here. We are good. I do need a motion and a second to approve the agenda with the addition of the urgency item, which is item number 14.
Motion.
I need a second. Can I get a roll call vote? Madam Clerk?
Councilmember Castillo?
Aye.
Councilmember Dane?
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Green?
Aye.
Mayor Smith?
Perfect.
Motion carried.
Sorry.
Thank you.
All right, moving on. Ceremonial matters. We are moving right along. Okay, so it's exciting because we have two to present. The first one is going to be for the month of July, and then we are in dark in the month of August, so we're also going to do our Citizen of the Month for the month of August, which is Tony. So thank you for coming, Tony. But first, Karen Bevins is our Citizen of the Month for the month of July. I'm going to let Jennifer, Councilwoman Dane, and Councilwoman Castillo tell us a little bit about Karen and what they've experienced in this process. She's not with us this evening, so we're going to present this to her thereafter. So,
Stay here.
yeah, you can stay here. You're fine. So tell us a little bit about why she became our Citizen of the Month for July.
Okay. Karen, for those of you that know Karen, she's very involved within the community and very involved in a lot of different events that we have. And when we decided that we wanted to put flags on everybody's home for Memorial Day, Karen was instrumental in helping us. She helped with some of the grids that they have used with other activities for veterans, and she was great with volunteers. When we came up a little bit short with volunteers, she called all her people and really helped us to be able to pull that off. So really appreciate all of Karen's hard work and her commitment to the community.
And if I can piggyback on that, Karen has been historically involved with the Veterans Day Committee. Like you said, putting out the flags, making those grids, having the volunteer contingency ready to go. She's active with the Veterans and First Responders Club or group, and she also makes sure that she is a regular participant with the city's 9/11 committee, the tribute committee. That's part of the community group, also part of the Veterans and First Responders group. So we're just very grateful for Karen Bevins. She was one of the first people to volunteer and raise her hand for this community. She could have been Citizen of the Month multiple times over, multiple years over. So this recognition is long overdue, I think.
Love it. Thank you so much. Do we have a microphone? Right up here. Perfect. Tony, family, come on up. Citizen of the Month for August.
Woo woo.
All right. Check. Perfect. All right, come on over here. A lot of people have asked, how do we pick our Citizens of the Month? And a lot of it's from our community members, whether they email me directly or our council. And it's all about things that community members like Tony do within and out of our community. And Tony, you're being recognized for many things. You helped out with the Hit Pitch Run fundraiser. You're a big part of that. I've received several calls from residents of you coming and towing them in the time of need when their golf carts break down. So you continue to give and give and give, and we want to honor you for the month of August as our Citizen of the Month. And we just want to say on behalf of myself and the council, thank you. Thank you to your family for your dedication, for loving Canyon Lake, and continue to give hours and hours and hours to us. It means the world to us. So here you go, my friend. You are the Citizen of the Month. Do you have anything you want to say? A couple things? Come on, you're a spokesman. You're
Thank you. It's an absolute honor, and it's interesting to get an award for doing what you do.
Right.
So I appreciate everything.
Awesome. Thank you, Tony. Appreciate you. Congratulations.
Very good. We can do still.
All right. Moving right along. Community reports. President Burke, you are up. EVMWD. What do we got?
Thank you, Mayor Smith, councilmen, staff, residents, and guests. I'm going to start with good news.
Yes.
I'm not going to end that way. So as you know, the Canyon Lake Water Treatment Plant is offline, which is why our lake was exceptionally high this 4th of July. Enjoy it for the next 3 years while we have that opportunity. But the price of the improvements that we've had to do has grown up almost 25%. So when we started looking at rehabilitating the plant, expanding it, adding the additional treatment for PFAS and PFOA, we were looking at 30 million, and now we're looking at 40 million. So one of the things we are adamant about is finding, I'm not going to say free money, because I look at grants as a rebate. We paid all that tax money in, I just want it back. So Congressman Calvert included us in his community grant program, also known as earmarks for some other people, and
Yep.
we were awarded $3 million last week for that project, so we're very excited about that. That's the beginning. Obviously, the goal is to continue to find money. If you recall, so far, I think we've been able to allocate about $150 million in either low interest, no interest, or grants for our $500 million capital improvement project that we're going to embark over the next 5 years. So it's really about saving our customers money and investing in infrastructure so we can do all the great things the city plans on it. The governor had obviously declared an emergency and a drought. I'm not going to go into my personal perspective of that this evening, but I am going to talk about what his baseline is. So he picked the year 2020, which is when every water agency or city had to reduce their water demands by 20% in 2020. No surprise he changed it to 30% in 2030, but that's another story too. That was extremely wet year. We had a lot of water, so our water demands were very low. That's our baseline. We have to cut 20% from a very low demand year. So I don't know exactly what that means for Canyon Lake yet. We're still analyzing that, but I can tell you, we, again, are number one in the most inefficient category of Lake Elsinore, Canyon Lake, Wildemar, Murrieta, and unincorporated areas of the county. So I'm just asking people to be aware. The ordinance we passed does have fines and penalties for those that are, I'm going to say, caught watering more than 3 times a week or during the hottest times of the day. We don't want to be the water police. I'm not encouraging staff to go out there and do that. I have been able to stay off what I call a drought tax, which is an automatic penalty for everybody just because we happen to be in a drought. I believe that it's our job as policymakers and water board leaders to find new sources of water so you have what you need and not to put the burden on our residents and customers and our businesses. So we're working really hard to find those new sources. We shall have our first draft of a study of what that might look like next month. So I'm very excited about that. I'm going to please encourage people to just use what you need, water at night or early morning, water every other day. Open your bill.
Yeah.
Just start there and kind of see where you are. If people stay in their budget, in my division alone, we would more than exceed what the governor is requesting. So I'm going to politely ask that people open their bill and just pay attention. I don't expect you to solve the drought. It's not your job to supply it, to fix the water supply problem, but our reservoirs are low. I'm hoping that we are able to continue to use our other resources and not have to bring Canyon Lake back online. One, because of the water quality issues, not that it's not safe, but it doesn't meet current standards. And two, I think we all enjoy a high lake during the summer.
Yes.
So working towards that.
Absolutely.
There's rebates, there's classes, there's landscape classes. We're really here to help and be a part of the community. And I'm happy to take any questions.
Any questions?
Thank you very much. Have a
Awesome.
good
Thank you
evening.
so much for the update. All right. Do we have someone from the Canyon Lake Property Owners Association? Not tonight? Okay. Moving on, Chambers of Commerce. I think Vice President, I think I saw Joseph here. Yes, thank you. The pillar was in the way, so.
Well, Darcy, thank you for that update. I just did a ton of landscaping. I think I'm responsible for the drought now.
Yeah.
Shoot. So, hey everyone, I'm filling in for Jeannie Odell, our president. I am the current vice president. And so a couple updates for you with the chamber. We launched Canyon Cash on Sunday, which is really exciting. As of last week, we had 27 participating businesses. And since Sunday when we launched, we've sold out 15 gift cards so far.
Nice.
So
It's working.
Yep.
Kudos.
Promoting it a ton on social media, our website, newsletters, hoping to really get all the businesses engaged and active with our residents. We also hosted Restaurant Week, which was another successful event. We did it last year, we did it again this year. Lots of great feedback from the community. We also had 6 restaurants give out gift cards as well, so we're going to be doing our drawing for that tomorrow. So 6 residents that signed up for that will be gift card winners. Business of the month, May, was Elsinore Valley Municipal Water District. We want to thank them for their support. And then June was Daisy Dukes.
Love it.
July and August, we are not announcing just yet. I know we'll have to catch up with y'all in September.
Yeah.
Speed networking, we hosted an event at Sports Stop. We're going to be doing that on a quarterly basis because of such great feedback. I know Tony was there, so thank you for participating in that. And then Business Bingo, we're launching it at the end of July. It'll be similar to last year's Business Bingo, essentially just to get the residents in the community engaged with our network of businesses. And that's our update.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Any questions for the chamber? Nope. Good. Thank you. Appreciate you.
Actually, I do have one question, real
Yeah.
quick, because I've been asked a couple times. If someone wants to participate in Canyon Cash, do they come to the chamber, or do they buy it from
Online.
the, online only?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
great.
Thank you so much. All righty, moving on to public safety update. Sheriff, Lieutenant Rails, you are up, my friend. You guys were busy.
Yes, we were. Busy weekend.
Busy weekend. I wonder why. Is there a holiday or something?
There was. Good evening, Honorable Mayor, Mayor Pro Tem, City Council members and staff. I have 2 months of public safety report for you. I have May and June, so we'll start with May. Deputies responded to 429 calls in the month of May. That's an increase of 18 calls from the prior month. We had 9 Part 1 crimes. We had 1 assault, 1 burglary. We had 5 thefts and 2 motor vehicle thefts. In addition, deputies wrote 13 traffic citations, investigated 2 traffic collisions. Overall, there were 14 arrests made in the city. 1 was for domestic violence, 1 for battery, 9 for outstanding warrants, 2 for drunk in public, and 1 DUI. So that covers the month of May. And I'll move on to June. Deputies responded to 378 calls for service, which was a decrease of 51 calls from the prior month. There were 10 Part 1 crimes in the month of June. We had two assaults, 1 burglary, 3 thefts, and 4 motor vehicle thefts. In addition, deputies wrote 27 traffic citations, investigated 3 traffic collisions, and there were 7 arrests made that month. 1 for domestic violence, 1 for battery, and 1 for an outstanding warrant, and 1 drunk in public, and 3 DUIs. So one of the main increases I would say for that month is vehicle thefts.
Yeah.
Actually, in those 2 months.
Yeah.
Everything else has pretty much stayed the same.
Any questions for the lieutenant? Go ahead.
Lieutenant, on the auto thefts, were the keys in the ignition or in the vehicle that Do you know?
I've read quite a few of them. I'd say about half and half.
Just a
Many times it is
Yeah.
in the morning hours when getting ready for work, you start your car and you leave because you forgot something inside, and someone sees a crime of opportunity and
Of course.
grabs it.
Yeah.
I have one other question, and it was asked to me by another resident, but it was in reference to 4th of July, and the county did a big publication on citations and a whole bunch of stuff. Has anybody on Canyon Lake been cited under that ordinance of fireworks, illegal use of fireworks?
In the past,
Or this year?
this last weekend, we did not.
Okay.
I was actually out there on Saturday and Sunday, and there was very few calls. I maybe had 2 to 3 calls the whole entire night as far as fireworks.
Okay.
And didn't catch anybody shooting off illegal fireworks this year. It was way down from what it usually is.
Well, we did have, just from personal observation, we did have quite a few, maybe not as many as in the past, because a lot of the residents, and what I found interesting is they had said they knew who the people were and tried to report it, and really, and I don't know all the details of that other than, it's just on a social media feed.
Right.
But it was to the point that I thought, I'll ask the question, and then I will ask the question of the fire department when we get to the chief's turn.
Yeah, it's difficult to track those down when you see them being
Right.
shot off in a neighborhood, then you finally get over there and
Yeah.
they're not there. I noticed there was a lot shot off in the neighborhoods during the time of the fireworks show.
We saw
or
that.
directly right afterwards, and then we were locked
Yeah.
in traffic. We couldn't get anywhere. But I did see quite a bit right around that time.
Yeah. All right, thank you.
Appreciate it. Any other questions? Thank you so much. Thanks for all the help.
Nope, you're welcome.
Really appreciate it. All right, code enforcement. Ruby, you are up. Chief, you're on deck. Start warming up.
Good evening, Mayor Pro Tem, and council members. Okay, so for the month of June, we issued 1 citation for unpermitted construction. 2 vehicles that were parked in the town center overnight got notice of violation posted on the vehicle. Another vehicle in the town center was parked there for sale, so notice of violation was issued to that. And down to our BLM regulations, there was a high activity on BLM in the month of June. 6 citations were issued, many vehicles were turned away. 1 burned vehicle was found, and we did tow it out July 3rd. And then down to our short-term rentals, no short-term rentals were found for the month of June. For our residential rental registrations, we have a total of 348 rental registrations, 316 that have renewed, 32 are pending renewal, 23 were inspected in June, and 52 still have not scheduled their inspections.
Any questions? None? It was good seeing you guys on the water on the 4th. I know it was difficult, so
Yeah.
good job on that.
Thank you.
All right. Chief, you are up.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, Mayor Pro Tem, City Council, City Staff, Jeff Latenders, your Fire Chief. I'm here to give your monthly report for the month of June. June will turn out to be our busiest month thus far, and we had 96 responses. Previously, our second busiest month was in the month of March when we ran 93. So where do those calls, or what kind of calls did we go on? We actually had 3 fires, 68 medical aids, 1 hazardous condition, 3 service calls, 14 good intents, and 7 false alarms. And that adds up to the 96 responses. The fire responses, we had 3, as I mentioned. The first response was on June 7th in the 23,000 block of Big T. It was a structure fire. We weren't able to determine the cause, but essentially some curtains that were hanging in a living room in a room caught fire and burned. The resident was home, was able to quickly call 911, and essentially the fire was out before our arrival. The second structure fire call that we had was on June 15th. It was actually a mutual aid response into Quail Valley on Nevada Street there. It was a well-involved structure fire, and our engine was the second unit on scene into Quail Valley in the community, or the city of Menifee, and we were committed there for over an hour and a half, and our units were assigned to interior fire attack. And then finally, we had a small landscaping fire in the 22,000 block of Calcutta, and we determined the cause of that 10 by 10 foot area that was burning to be a discarded smoking material into the landscaping. So those were our 3 fire responses for the month of June. Time of day, again, there's really no change here as we look at the month of June and when the responses are from about midnight to 7, 8 o'clock in the morning. It's fairly quiet, and then we get our busier period in the day. We did have a couple lows, which was kind of interesting in the month of June, where around mid-afternoon our responses seemed to drop down. But if you look at our year-to-date, you see more of our normal trend, where during the middle of the day from about 10 o'clock on, our responses are consistent until about 8 or 9 o'clock at night. So where are our calls occurring? This still amazes me, but without question, the vast majority of our calls for the month, 64, have occurred in single-family residence. But our second most common occurrence is at the fire station. And so out of all those locations up there, the second most common place where calls occur is at the fire station. And so the community obviously knows where the fire station is at. It's a neighborhood fire station, and all too often people come to the fire station with their medical emergencies. And fortunately, we've been there, but I do want to emphasize, please call 911. Let us come to you and we'll handle the call, because there could be times when we're not there and we want to provide the best possible care as quickly as we can to you.
Hey, Chief?
Yes, sir.
What kind of calls are these, medical calls? Are they pretty serious? Are they?
We've had some serious where parents have brought children in that have been having difficulty breathing. We've actually had a couple calls at the beach across the street, across the causeway there, that people have been injured and come over. We've had cardiac calls where people have been experiencing a cardiac emergency. They get in the car. Sometimes they start feeling worse along the way, and they pull into the fire station when they're driving to the hospital. So we just want to encourage people to call 911.
Wow. Thank you, Chief.
Response time, our average response time, if you just give me 1 minute. So again, averages are the way that you've historically seen our numbers before, but what we call our turnout time is from the time of dispatch to the time the unit goes en route. We have decreased our time last month from 113 to 107. Our travel time, or the time that it takes to get from point A to point B, again, we're right about where we were last month. It was 4:33, and this month it is 4:34, and that's a time parameter that we can't control. It's the distance from wherever we're at to wherever we're going. And so 2 of those added up is what we call our total response time, and we dropped it down just a little bit from the previous month of 5:36 to 5:30. But if you look at our yearly average, and that's the first column there in each of these charts, our average response time for the entire 6-month period is 119. I'm sorry, our average turnout time. Our average travel time is 4:34, and our average total response time is 5:42. So we're right about where we want to be. You know, we always want to try to improve, and we do rate ourselves 2 different ways, and the average is one way, and the other way is what we call our fractile time. So where the average is 50%, fractile is what we want to do 90% of the time. We want to meet our goal. So for turnout time, our average for the month of June was 1 minute, 44 seconds. It was a decrease from the previous month. Our travel time was 6 minutes and 14 seconds, about where we were before. And our total response time was, I have to put my glasses on, I'm sorry, 8 minutes and 14 seconds. So a little higher than where we want to be on some of those, but we continue to press our individuals and work with them and share this information with them so that we can get out of the station as quickly as possible and get to the scene and start rendering care.
It's those new seatbelts, right, Chief?
It's those new expensive seatbelts.
Very expensive. You're welcome.
Automatic and mutual aid given. So during the month of June, Canyon Lake engines responded 18 times outside the city. 14 of those incidents were in the city of Lake Elsinore, 4 were in Menifee. Canyon Lake engines responded a total of 62 times since we started operations. 50 of those have been in Lake Elsinore, 9 in Menifee, and 3 in Paris. And again, as I always say, these are postal codes and not necessarily city limits. This is what we call a heat map of where those responses occur. So coming out the north gate, you can see a lot of them are along Greenwall in the 74 corridor. As we come out the other area, you can see in the Canyon Hills area, we get a lot of our responses there. Riverside County responded 14 times into the city of Canyon Lake. Totally this year, they've responded 64 times. You can see there where they've responded into our community, and so it's really random. And as you see the red dots there, that's where multiple incidents have been occurring. So here in the town center area, our call volume is higher here, so that's one reason why there's more responses from automatic aid resources into this section. For our training hours, we've improved since last month. Our A shift had 35 hours for 427 this year. B shift had 24 for a total of 206, and C shift had 31 for a total of 364. Again, our goal is to get 20 hours per company a month, so that we're doing that. This month we focused on firefighter orientation, wildland refresher training, reserve training, and engineer training. This is a new slide. Something I wanted to try to cover every month is our reserve firefighter program. So our reserve firefighters provide additional staffing to our full-time engine company, where normally we have 3. With our reserves, we have 4 personnel on the engine. During the month of June, they were able to staff the engine for 4-row staffing 73% of the time. And thus far this year, they've been able to staff the engine with 4 personnel 80% of the time. They have to do 2 24-hour shifts per month. We call it volunteering. They get a $50 stipend each day, and they also have to train monthly training that is held on the second Saturday of each month. So here you can see them going through their wildland training and getting deployed into their fire shelters. Fire prevention, it was a slower month for fire prevention. We actually had no permits that we issued. We had 1 site plan review, 2 fire sprinkler plan reviews, 2 construction inspections, 2 special permit applications, 2 special event inspections, and no wildland urban interface inspections that are part of the selling a home process now that just initiated last year. Public education, your firefighters, hopefully you saw them out there. We had a station tour. Should have seen us at Club Rush, at Movies in the Park, Taco Tuesday, Canyon Lake Neighborhood Appreciation Party, and we had an EMT and an employee ride-along. Tyler, on one of his last days here at work, actually got some interesting calls. And then we're just out there committed and engaging our community on a daily basis. A significant incident this month was probably that structure fire in Quail Valley. Again, our engine was one of 5 that was part of the initial dispatch, along with the truck company and a chief officer. They requested an additional 3 engines, so it was a significant incident. Our engine was second on scene. Our crews were assigned to interior attack, and we worked extremely well. We communicated extremely well, and everything on the fire ground went seamless and smoothly. So we did a great job, and our work was appreciated there by the county. Since I think we're going to be dark in the month of August, I wanted to provide a little bit of an update for our activities on 4th of July. Knowing that this would be a busy day in the community, we staffed up a second 4-person engine company. We had both chief officers on duty 24 hours here in the city. We had a total of 10 firefighters in Canyon Lake for 24 hours when we normally would have 4. We responded to 15 emergency incidents. Our normal is about 3 per day, so it was a much busier day. And ironically, 7 of those calls occurred when we were already on calls. So the value of having that second engine on scene was really amplified by the back-to-back type responses that we were getting. We had 2 incidents, and strangely enough, involving golf carts. One of them had some serious injuries. Our turnout time for the day, we talked about it earlier, for the month it was 117. For 4th of July, we had it down to 47 seconds as an average. So that was pretty impressive for our guys. We did respond to 1 incident outside the city. CAL FIRE responded to 1 incident inside the city when both of our units were committed. And then we provided all the services at the fireworks show as well. So it was a very, very busy day, and I will say, you'll probably ask about it, we did have one fireworks-related fire in the community. It was in the Happy Camp area, and it was started by fireworks. And so that concludes my report, and I'm available to answer any questions you might have.
Mayor Pro Tem Green, you have a question. I can see it.
Why would you say that?
I don't even have to look. I can just feel it.
I want to commend everybody that worked the 4th, because your presence was out there, and obviously, the community appreciated it. I think that was a good move on your part to step back, because that is a high incident time, and so I want to commend you guys for that. I don't know if it's possible, but I think I asked last month if you could, and now we're going to be into September, but could you put a stat sheet in here? I want to see your EMS calls, and I want to broke them down by BLS versus ALS. So if we've got a percentage of, let's say, 45 that are BLS and 45 are ALS, and the others are just throwaways. Can you do that? Have you got the stats to do that?
Mayor Pro Tem, if I may, that's something we can talk about in terms of breaking down ALS versus BLS.
Okay.
I think there are some issues there that we want to talk about in terms of other programs the city runs that may or may not be a great idea, but we can certainly run the numbers many different ways. And if you'd like, maybe we can talk offline and.
Okay, that's fine.
So we can figure out exactly the information you're looking for. We can break it down.
Sure.
Chief, we double digits, right? We had, what, 13, was it 15 calls on?
15 calls on the 4th of July, correct.
So feel pretty good about the way that you handled it moving forward. I mean, I know we double staffed and we were running 2 engines and everything was.
Everything worked extremely well.
That's awesome.
It is interesting, I'll be very candid, sleeping 8 to 10 people at the fire station that was designed for
Yeah.
originally 2 is a little crowded.
I can imagine.
But they made it work. But yes, response-wise, everything was incredible. During the fireworks show, engines were pre-positioned, one on
Perfect.
the north side, one on the other side, so that we could decrease our response time. And so we're very happy with the way everything went. And we also did this during Memorial Day weekend. For 2 days, we staffed up an additional engine for 2 days then as well.
Kudo to you and your guys in Bailey. Any other questions?
I just want to say, I heard a lot of feedback from the community that even though you were incredibly busy, you still made time to go out and engage with the community. Specifically, I heard that your firefighters were at the different beaches and at Happy Camp, and the residents were very appreciative, so.
I wish I could say I directed them to it, but it's what they want to do. They love going out there and engaging with the community.
That's awesome, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any further questions? You're off the hook, Chief.
Thank you.
Appreciate you. All right, public comments. Madam Clerk, please read the comment statement. Public comment
you.
statement. Thank you.
Any person wishing to address the City Council on any matter within the jurisdiction of the city, whether or not it appears on this agenda, is asked to complete a speaker request form available on the back counter. The completed form is to be submitted to the city clerk prior to an individual being heard by the City Council. The City Council has adopted a time limitation of 3 minutes per person. If you're commenting on the agenda item, your comments will be heard at the time that particular item is scheduled on the agenda. Please note that if you're addressing the City Council on items not on the agenda, the Brown Act does not allow discussion of such items. Therefore, the City Council may only do the following: refer the matter to staff, ask for additional information or request a report back, or give a very limited factual response. Members of the public may still submit their comment electronically by sending an email with their comment to publiccomment@canyonlakeca.gov. Comments submitted electronically will be provided to the City Council and included in the official record, but will not be read aloud during this meeting. I do have 2 cards. They're both for item number 11, so I have no further cards. I do want to remind the public, comment cards are on the back. If anybody's speaking on a public hearing, we have 2 public hearings tonight. Whether you're a proponent or opponent, please fill out a card and bring it up before that item is heard. Thank you.
Madam Clerk, do you need a drink of water before we continue?
I'm good.
All right, moving right along.
All items listed on the consent calendar are considered to be routine matters, status reports, or documents covering previous City Council action. The items listed on the consent calendar may be enacted in one motion. With the concurrence of the City Council, a council member may request that an item be removed for further discussion. Staff recommends approval of all items.
Perfect. Council members, would you like to pull an item from the consent calendar?
Mayor, I'd like item 8 for discussion.
Number 8 is being pulled. Any others? Nope. I do need a motion on the consent calendar with item 8 being pulled.
Motion?
Second.
Roll call, please.
Councilmember Castillo?
Aye.
Councilmember Dane?
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Green?
Aye.
Mayor Smith?
Aye.
Motion carried with item 8 pulled.
Mayor Pro Tem, the floor is yours. This is for adoption, resolution number 2022-42, the authorization and budget adjustment to reflect changes in the professional service agreement with Bill Blankenship for the Economic Development Consulting.
Yeah. Okay, is Bill here?
Yes, sir.
Can you come up to the podium, Bill, please? I had, the only way I could get you up to the podium is I had to have this item pulled so I could talk to you.
This is
I'm
true.
here.
Or it would be, you would be out the door.
No, I'm here.
A couple of things, and it's in referencing just what I've read from the Supervisor Jeffries, basically, that LAFCO has started looking at sphere of influence on cities, especially the western Riverside cities. Specifically, the city of Menifee is in annexation mode right now for moving to Highway 79. And I know that we had commissioned you to work with a firm to get us establish our sphere of influence so LAFCO could look at it and give us an idea where we could be. Where are we at in that process, and when will it be completed?
The firm is currently in the field right now, working on a cost of service analysis. They tell me that they're in the last parts of that study, and once we have that study, then it'll be presented to the city manager and then ultimately presented to the council. In regards to LAFCO had a hearing about a week ago, dealing with adopting their SOI study. LAFCO, every so many years, goes out in the field. This is the first time that they did a countywide SOI sphere of influence study. It was the most ambitious study that they've ever undertaken. We've been part of that process. Chris and I, or the city manager and I, met with their consultant, and I was at the hearing for its entirety. I did not see where Supervisor Jeffries was pushing one way or the other. There was a move by the city of Menifee, but not dealing with 74 at the hearing that I was at. 79, at the hearing that I was at. There was some pushback from some of the other cities, but not related to our immediate neighbors. There was a pushback in the Eastern County, and there was also the sphere of influence was really dealing with the Winchester area and the city of Menifee. That's based on the hearing that I was at, what I saw. So based on what I saw at the hearing and based on the conversations that I had with LAFCO staff leading up to that hearing, I think we're still in a good position to continue with the interest that we are forging forward with. But I think everything will be dependent upon what the numbers look like in that cost of service analysis. So I think that's coming very quickly, and I know our consultant recently met with our fire chief and his staff on that, and like I said, there will be a follow-up discussion later this week with myself and them, and they told me they're very close to being done.
Okay, thank you.
Is that anything else?
Nope.
Be more than happy to continue.
I think that's, well, I was interested where we are, because I think time is of essence right now, based on what's happening in other jurisdictions. And I know that we've had this discussion for some time and move forward with the funding of it and with all the, and I realize there's additional studies that will be required, economic impact will be required, but I was really wanting to make sure that we didn't miss the window of opportunity for at least establishing what our sphere is and what we have to do to secure it.
There'll be a need for a change of our general plan, and we are at the table and we are monitoring that process with LAFCO.
Okay,
So,
that's what I have. Thank you.
Perfect. Any other questions? We good?
Good.
All right.
thank you.
I do need a motion on, this is item 8. I need a motion and a second.
Motion.
Second. I beat you to it, sorry. Roll call vote.
Councilmember Castillo. Aye. Councilmember Dane.
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Green.
Aye.
Mayor Smith.
Aye.
Motion carried.
All right, moving on. Public hearing, here we go. This is number 10, Resolution 2022-44. Let's see here. We're going to open the public hearing at 7:10. We're going to turn this over to the city planner. The floor is yours.
Mr. Mayor, members of the council, good evening. Yes, this is a public hearing on a conditional use permit for the farmer's market that is,
I thought that was your 3-minute warning, but I guess not.
I'd like to know what your action is.
Yeah, that's great timing. Moving on, resolution number 11, here we go.
So the farmer's market is an existing operation, as the council is aware, and the reason it's before you this evening is there were certain stipulations in the original approval in which there was a 1-year approval, and certain actions had to be taken. Staff did not see that those actions were undertaken. We contacted the applicant, and they've gone through the process. We've scheduled the hearing for you this evening. The basis of the conditional use permit, I wanted to point out, was an opportunity for the council to establish applicable conditions that you think are appropriate for it. Now, there are a number of conditions in there, from building, fire, health department, which are more regulatory, statutory requirements, but there are some additional items which have been incorporated, which were part of the original approval, and some were modified. One of those that were modified, as I mentioned, it was originally a 1-year approval. We've inserted a 5-year period. I don't know what the council thinks is appropriate for that, so I'm going to leave that kind of open, but I wanted to make the council aware that there was an ability to stipulate a time frame. You don't have to stipulate a time frame. The use can be ongoing. But if you choose to, you can select that, of course, or another particular time. The other item, we've incorporated provisions for what we said porta potties, or some type of arrangement where the patrons and the operators of the different businesses can go ahead and use restroom facilities that have been identified in advance. We did receive complaints that some of the businesses in the area have been, I'm going to use the word inundated just to make a point, by people who come to the market needing to go to the bathroom. And I've discussed that with the applicant. The applicant's here this evening. They can go ahead and give you an update on that. The conditions we provided to the applicant, they're in your packet. The recommendation this evening is that you adopt an exemption from the California Environmental Quality Act, finding the proposed conditional use permit is exempt under Section 15301, existing facilities, because the use has been ongoing and the area to be used is an existing paved parking lot. And secondly, adopt Resolution 2022-44, approving conditional use permit number 22-0249 for the farmer's market located within the southwest corner of the town center parking lot on Sunday mornings and afternoons. And there's a typo right there, both here and in the resolution stipulates southwest. It should say southeast portion. With that, staff would respond to any questions, and as I mentioned, the applicant, Pamela Earl, is in the audience.
Thank you, Mr. City Planner. Questions? Absolutely. Mayor Pro Tem Green?
The requirements of on-site porta potties, that's a very similar requirement for most all of our events that we host here that are seasonal, isn't that correct? So all that's doing is just making them in compliance with our Winterfest and other things the council or the chamber puts on. This is not they're not exceptions to the porta potty rule. Anybody that hosts something in the parking lots have got to provide restroom facilities, and not the restaurants.
Correct. And what we've inserted in the conditions is something of a variance to that, in that if a particular business wanted to provide that service, and so stipulated in writing, and the operator so indicates to the people there that these restroom facilities in particular are available, we're just simply making that as a potential option. It could be the porta potties, it could be that. That's up to the council. At this point, both of those facets are in one condition, giving them the option.
Okay. Isn't that imposing on our businesses like that are open on Sunday because they'll have traffic coming in that isn't going to be patronizing that business? It's just to use
I'm
the
sure it's an
restroom?
agreement set in place
Yes,
before the
yeah,
event,
it
right?
would be, it's in writing provided to us.
Okay.
So we are aware of what that business is, and I've already mentioned it to the applicant that they would need to post what that business is. Now, if the council's concerned about that particular aspect, then yes, the porta potties, of course, are there, and as you mentioned, a lot of events have that. So it's an option within the conditional use permit, trying to determine what the popular or appropriate manner of addressing a particular topic is.
Okay.
It sounds like people helping people.
I have some questions.
Yes.
So this farmer's market has been going on for a long time, and it's fairly well attended by Canyon Lakers. There's always new vendors, and I know that. I think the community gets a lot of benefit from it. I know that they were a key role in how well we did during COVID. My question really is, why put a limitation of 5 years? Why not recommend ongoing permit until we need to change it?
It was a little bit of, I think, reticence on staff's part in that we didn't have a feel for what really the council wanted. The initial approval was for a year, just without any background. It seemed like that would be a trial period. Okay, the trials obviously continued on. But without a better sense, at least personally from staff, wasn't so sure. So I mentioned the 5 years just as a number that's available as a discussion point.
How long has the farmer's market been operating?
The original request came through in '08. I don't know whether there was any interruption in the time. Maybe the applicant can indicate that.
Okay, but we can basically assume that it's been doing just fine for in excess of 5 years, right?
Correct.
Without government getting involved.
Correct.
Good. Let's keep it that way.
That's what I was getting at.
Yep, I know. I just said it.
I have a question.
Yes.
If we don't have a limit on time, what is the process for ending it if we wanted to? I don't know that we would, but.
Well, I guess one particular item would be you would find them not in compliance with the conditions of approval, and you would take action that way. Otherwise, if they remained in compliance, it's a potential issue, I guess, between the property owner and them, in which the property owner is no longer satisfied and would request or demand that they stop.
Mayor Pro Tem Green?
You know, I don't think it's unreasonable for us to have a 5-year agreement versus it being until infinity, because it also allows us to go back and revisit it. Also gives the applicant a chance to modify it if he has to. And so it also gives us a timeline that we look at it and maybe some things have changed. Maybe the allocation of spaces, there's more or less. So it gives us a chance to revisit it, or staff to revisit it and say, yeah, everything's working fine, and recommend it for another 5 versus every annual, or not having it on a review basis just from here to whenever. So I think for me, 5 years is reasonable.
If I could piggyback a little bit on a portion of that, one of the discussions we had with the applicant was to have them come to us with what they thought their ultimate goal is as far as the development. I said, let's not limit it to anything that's you see now or a year from now, but what would you like to have as far as an area or an operation. And I said, we'd like to encompass that within the conditional use permit. So we attempted to provide for an opportunity in the future to grow, whether or not the council wants to stipulate certain actions in the future, such as a 5-year period to report back and see how they're doing, that's fine with staff.
Nothing? Want to just keep on going? Okay, on his question, if there wasn't a time put on this, 5 years, 10 years, 12 years, tomatoes, tomatoes, what would bring it back to us? Issues with other businesses, some sort of crime, safety issue? What would bring it back?
I guess staff could bring it back based upon, as I mentioned, concerns about what you just raised.
Okay.
But the question, I think, would be more whether or not they were in compliance. For example, if there are concerns by businesses that there's a lot of trash that's always out there. That's a
Right. That's a
condition
good
of
example.
approval. So they're not in compliance. But that would not necessarily mean that they could not continue. The council may say, okay, let's have another review in a year.
So a business or a resident at any time could essentially bring this forward if there's any concerns or issues without having to put a time on it.
They could raise it with the council. I think it would, first of all, let's take the maximum limit. This is infinity, as I think the term was used. So if someone came up and said, we've got some problems with that, the council could decide to agendize that, have a discussion with staff about what those particular issues are, and then weigh whether or not there's appropriate, but I'll use the term punitive action that should be taken relative to the permit itself. But the application wouldn't necessarily just come forward simply because someone complained.
Thank you. Any other questions? All right, moving on. We're looking now at testimony by proponents.
I have no cards.
Testimony by opponents.
No cards.
If I could, Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
Sorry to interrupt.
That's okay.
The applicant is here. I think it would be appropriate to hear their comments.
Oh, absolutely.
They did not fill out a card.
Okay. Can we get them to fill out a card so that Stephen doesn't yell at us on the phone?
Yes,
Okay.
I can circle back with them.
Perfect.
Rob.
We do have a time limitation, so you have 3 minutes.
Okay, first of all, I'd like to discuss the rules and regulations for starting a farmer's market with the United States Department of Agriculture. As far as the porta potties went, they have rules that as long as you have restrooms within 200 feet, you're in compliance with the United States Department of Agriculture. And we have an agreement with a restaurant, a written agreement, and we will have a posted sign on my booth that states where that restroom is. And none of the farmers markets in the area have porta potties. We're not a special event. We're an ongoing thing that's year-round, every Sunday, year-round, rain or shine. So we will work with that. We have permits that are yearly. We have a yearly permit, conditional use permit with the Department of Health. We have to have that, otherwise they would shut us down. The Department of Health is very strict. Every 3 months, we have paperwork, and all of the food vendors have to be pre-approved before I turn this paperwork in with the fees for the quarterly fees with environmental health. And so all of our people that have the food are all pre-approved, and we have quarterly inspections. We also have inspections from 3 departments of the Department of Agriculture. We have the County Department of Agriculture, we have the State Department, and we also have the Egg Handling Department that handles all of the people that have eggs. All of our farmers are certified by the Department of Agriculture, so they actually grow what they sell. They have people that go out to their farms and certify that everything that they have on their table is on that certification. So it's actually grown by these families, that when you come to our market, you know you're getting the very best local produce. And We have the other department that handles people that sell eggs. They have to have a certification from the regular Department of Ag, and they have to have special ones just for doing the eggs. And then they have another one, if you sell avocados, you have to have another certificate for avocados. They get you coming and going. But all of our people we're very strict about who we have at our market, and we have mom and pop businesses, and we have requirements of weights on our canopies. They're fire resistant. We're going to clean up a little bit in the aisle area, so if we get a fire inspection, we'll pass with flying colors. If there is a problem, once in a while, there's some little thing, usually the city contacts me, and we take care of it as soon as possible, and we make sure it never happens again. So we don't want anybody being unhappy. We provide a big service to the community. We have the county with...
That's the chief's alarm.
With WIC, they come out, women, infant, and children. Right now is the summertime, and they come out and they pass out WIC coupons to young families that need help with making sure that their children get fruits and vegetables. We have an EBT machine with Market Match so that people can come and buy fruits and vegetables and some of the food products. And we have a Market Match program. They get an extra $10 on top of whatever they take out of their account. So we try to provide a service to all people from all levels of life. And I think we have a really nice market out there.
Thank you so much. Appreciate the update on that. Sounds like you have plenty of regulations you're already dealing with. I hope Canyon Lake isn't one of those. So, moving on, response by proponents. Do we have any? Okay. I'm going to close the public hearing at 7:26. Discussion by City Council.
I think you just kind of nailed it. We've added new stipulations. Ms. Earl is a very diligent, meticulous market applicant. I don't think we've really had any crazy complaints. I mean, complaints here and there, that's every business. But the benefit to the community, I think, greatly weighs in favor of giving them the benefit of the doubt until there's an issue. And my suggestion would be, with the additional stipulations that bring them up to date, that we give them an ongoing permit.
To address Mayor Pro Tem Green in regards to 5 years, I completely see where you're at. I think what she just described was a mountain of regulations by not only the health department, but other entities as well, that the timing that she's already having to go under is just, the mountain's high.
And since we can bring it back at any time, or there's an issue, I do have to say, if you guys really do provide a service, it's community-based, and myself, and if that went away, my wife would not be happy, especially with the gentleman in the orange shirt, because he sells our oranges all the time. So anyway, I'm just wanting to make sure that the things you're doing are okay, and I understand there's a mountain of regulations, because you got health, you've got eggs, you listed them all. We want to be here to help you. We just want, and we want a good program that we have on Sundays, because it is a community event, and we appreciate you for that. We just have to make sure that, from my perspective, I'm not only speaking for myself, that the things that we're requiring others, you guys are doing, and you are. So I really don't have a problem if we do like you suggested. Just leave it open-ended, and if in fact somebody has an issue, we'll explore it, and if that doesn't find any validation or we can't get it corrected, then we'll have another process to go through.
Agree.
But we appreciate what you guys are doing, and we're here to be part of the solution, not part of the problem.
Yeah, we don't want to be in the way. Councilmember Dan, do you have anything? No. I do need a motion, and I need a second on this.
Motion.
Mayor?
There's more to do?
Sorry, yes, if we can get a motion and second first to adopt the exemption.
Of course. Adopts the exemption for, you want the permit number? Or you want the resolution?
Just to adopt the exemption from the California Environmental Quality Act.
What you said, second. I need a motion.
Second.
Did you second?
Motion.
Need a roll call vote.
I'm sorry, just to clarify, the motion was by yourself and a second by Mayor Pro Tem Green?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Thank you. Councilmember Castillo?
Aye.
Councilmember Dane?
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Green?
Aye.
Mayor Smith?
Aye.
Motion carried.
All right, moving right along, another public hearing. This is number
Wait, wait,
11.
wait.
We still got more.
Yes. If I can get a motion and second now to adopt the resolution.
Thank you.
Resolution
That's where I was
2022.
at.
Wait, but do we need to amend the
Yes.
resolution?
We need to amend the resolution.
Correct.
To be continuous and ongoing?
That's the amendment.
That's part of your motion?
That's part of the motion.
That
Perfect.
is.
I'll second that.
Thank you.
We did some stuff there.
Thank you. Councilmember Castillo?
Aye.
Councilmember Dane?
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Green?
Aye.
Mayor Smith?
Aye.
Motion carried to adopt resolution number 2022-44 with the amendments.
Now,
Yes.
I got a hot date, so I'm trying to, wife is texting, I'm kidding. All right, here we go. Resolution, this is going to be adoption of resolution number 2022-45. This is the denial of the variance application. Public hearing is open on this at 7:30. Staff presentation. City Planner, you are up again.
Mr. Mayor, members of the council, good evening again. This is for a proposed single-family residence at 22801 Klamath Court. The proposed application, as you mentioned, is for a variance to exceed the 40-foot building height and the 3-story building height. The zoning ordinance provides a variance procedure that would allow the council to render a decision based upon special circumstances dealing with the property size, shape, topography, or surroundings, as I note in the staff report. It's
Mr. City Planner, I'm going to call for a 2-minute recess to allow my colleague to come back for the presentation.
That's fine.
7:31.
My 8:45 is looking pretty good.
What did I say?
Heck no. My presentation, I'm going to drag it out. I'm going to have the long.
All right, 7:33, we're back, we're live. City Planner, you are once again up. I'll hit play. We paused you.
I'm kind of in the middle of it, Mr. Mayor.
I know, I apologize.
Yes. So the item before the council really represents a choice of approving a variance or amending the zoning ordinance. My discussion with the applicant has been that a variance isn't appropriate based upon the proposed exceedance of the development criteria. Zoning is kind of set up as an envelope in which you can develop the property within the boundaries of that envelope, height, sides, front and rear. In this case, the proposal is to exceed that particular envelope. There didn't seem to be hardships that necessitated to go higher. Lots of times there are hardships relative to the odd configuration of the property. You can't get access to it, for example. That doesn't really exist here. There's access to the property. There's adequate height available. The applicant meets the setbacks. The building is large. The property is almost a half acre in size. The difficulty in amending the ordinance would be potential conflicts that might arise with the Property Owners Association. As you're aware, they have different criteria than the city. I believe their criteria is a maximum height elevation based upon the elevation above the road.
Curb height, right?
Pardon?
Curb height is how they identify it?
Yeah. We do not go by that. We go by strictly height wherever the building is on the property. So the building envelope that I described earlier has a high point and a low point for the finished grade that the structure is going to be placed on. If you're on a slope, it allows you to take the low point and the high point and take the middle and then go up to determine the 40 feet. That way you're not penalized because you're on a slope. And you're also not rewarded too much because you have very little along the street. The height that the applicant has proposed, I have the details in the staff report. You can take a look at that. And there may be an ability to address the actual vertical height of 40 feet. But the biggest problem, of course, is the number of stories. So the applicant has 4 stories. There's a maximum in the code of 3. Obviously, they exceed that. We don't think that a variance is relevant to that particular circumstance. This is a public hearing, and what I failed to mention before, the same thing applies here. We sent out notices to property owners within 300 feet to allow them to make comment if they so wish. There is no environmental recommendation because we're not recommending approval. Thus, there's no action. So staff is recommending denial of the request to allow the single-family residence to exceed the 40-foot height limitation and the 3 stories for 22801 Klamath Court. If you have any questions, be happy to respond. The applicant is here. I believe several people are going to speak. I think that they've turned in their speaker's cards.
I have questions.
Please.
Okay.
Real quick, just so I can ask something of staff. During this process, since we do have proponents, opponents, is council allowed to direct questions to those public comment cards?
Direct questions towards the cards?
Yes, for the opponents or proponents, people that are going to be presenting. Are we allowed to have that discussion?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
To them directly?
Yeah, this is an agendized item absolutely, yes.
Perfect. And then the 3-minute time, same thing applies? Because if there's questions from council to the proponent, that really takes away the time of them. So I'm just...
Yeah, typically, any questions the council might have of a speaker would not count against them in their 3 minutes.
Okay, did everyone get the lay of the land? Got the rules now? Councilwoman Castillo's got a question too. Yeah, go.
Okay, I have a couple questions.
Sorry, Casey.
That's okay. So in reading the staff evaluation, it looks like if the feet limit is 40 feet, we're talking about 41.02 feet. Is that
That's
right?
correct.
Okay, so a foot and 2 inches? Is that right?
Just slightly over a foot.
Okay. And then 4 floors. So they, instead of just 3 floors in the 40 feet, they've managed to make it 4 floors in the 40
Yes.
feet? And 2 of those...
Well, 4 floors within the distance that they have, yes.
Okay, and
Because
2
we're saying that they exceed the 40 feet.
Gotcha. And 2 of those stories are on one street and almost the other 2 are on another street? Because of the weird...
The building is designed such that from the street, what you see are 2 stories. As you move further depth into the home, there's 4 stories. And as you move further depth, there's 2 stories. So they've kind of adjusted it at different points.
Because it's on a very crazy slope that they've had to make these adjustments? Is that right?
That is correct.
Well, I think that's more of a question to them. Presumably, yes, but I think those are design questions in which they have a choice of how they design.
Gotcha. And then you mentioned that you had made the public hearing noticed amongst neighbors. Did you receive any commentary from neighbors?
I received a phone call, and I believe that there were other calls from residents that I did not get, but I've been informed of.
Okay. Were those in favor or against?
I think that they were opposed, but I need some
I can
more
answer that
background.
because I received several phone calls opposed.
Okay. And what was the gist of the opposition?
So the conversations with the residents were mainly, they were concerned about showing up tonight because they didn't want to be bad neighbors, but they were concerned about the size of the property, the way that the street is and the way that that location, it just kind of sits a little differently. And so they already have trouble with trash pickups, and there's trouble with deliveries, and there's just a lot of congestion already. And so those were the concerns that they expressed to me.
I have a question about that then. So the access for this particular property is fairly limited, right? The other people have access, no problem off the street, but this one doesn't. Is that right?
There's access off the street, yes.
Okay, so what street, though? That wasn't really clear to me. The same street as the street with the neighbors who are concerned about the size?
I
Or
don't, well, I
different
don't know
street?
about those particular neighbors. I don't know in particular what their comments
Yeah.
were. The one comment I received related to the view of the home, so I discussed with the applicant best I could over the phone of what the general design was and how it would look as they looked at the property.
Mr. City Planner,
Yeah.
just real quick, sorry, Councilwoman Castillo, have you walked the property?
No, I haven't.
Okay, Councilwoman Castillo, I'm going to let Mayor Pro Tem Green, because he could probably answer a few of your questions.
Okay, well, then.
Go ahead.
Let me give him the rest of them, so then that maybe he could answer all of them. My question is, are the neighbors more concerned about the size of the house and the way the house looks versus the issues that are outlined in the variance?
The one that I spoke to was concerned about the views, but they took the information I provided and thanked me.
Thank you.
Okay.
So they didn't give an indication that they were definitely opposed. They had called because they were concerned. What the eventual outcome of that particular comment was, I don't know. They didn't state.
Okay. But if I'm understanding you correctly, they're concerned that they may lose some of their view, which
Yes.
happens in Canyon Lake all the time, right?
I
I mean,
what was the latter part?
that happens in Canyon Lake all the time. Views get obstructed by
They were
houses.
concerned that they would lose their view, yes.
And did they mention that it was just the foot, or was it just in general?
It was in general. I think it was the overall size of the structure, because the question that came up was how far back towards, there's an easement at the back of the property. And they said, well, we were trying to get a point of understanding where it was, and they were familiar with where the easement was. So I used the easement as a reference to try and describe over the phone what the elevation looked like.
Gotcha.
So it was visibility.
Those were my questions.
Mayor Pro Tem Green and myself had the opportunity to walk the property and spend some time on it yesterday. So I'm going to let Mayor Pro Tem Green describe to you a little bit about our experience, and I'll chime in.
Okay. I have a question. Where in the code does it say, or is it our amended code, that it says that we only allow 3 stories?
In the zoning ordinance.
And the Canyon Lake,
Oh, yes.
Canyon Lake zoning?
Oh, yes.
But it's not a state codified that says you can only
No.
go 3 stories
No,
in
no.
R1? Okay. Because I do believe we have some houses in here that are 4 stories. where they're, however they got approved, they probably met the 40-foot height, and so nobody cared how many floors were there, but however they're there. So one, I just want to make sure that is in our code that has a height restriction.
Right, our zoning-
And the number of floors per whatever.
Yes, the
Okay,
zoning ordinance says 40 feet.
So that's the
3
city of
stories.
Canyon Lake, we amended the building code to reflect those conditions.
The zoning ordinance that we're utilizing comes from the county upon incorporation.
Okay.
So it's existed for 32 years. So whatever the county code was at that time, we have continued to use that. We've amended certain portions of the zoning ordinance, others, chapters of it, but that has remained the same.
Okay. That'll be another thing we'll talk about after we do the presentation. But the property itself, and since we had the opportunity to walk it, you've got two different ways of looking at it. The front access off of whatever the street is.
Klamath.
Has one elevation, which we've talked about, which if you look at the properties around it, they're actually setting at grade level. If you look at it, it's no different looking than any house that you would have on that block. Difference is this is a huge, huge lot. One of the biggest, probably one of the most premier in Canyon Lake, with a slope that's 30-some feet down. So there's lots of space that mostly can't be built on unless you figure out some way of utilizing that 30 feet. So I'm not sure, and then the access that there's talking about, there's off Bonanza,
Bonanza Court, yep.
and there's a private, I don't know if it's private dedicated, it's probably private access, but it's a driveway that goes down, we've got the fire chief's house down there. It's a narrow road, paved driveway that services probably 15 houses on this road. They happen to be at the end. So I've looked at the concerns of how the place is laid out, how it reflects into the neighborhood. And if you look around the neighborhood, you go over to San Joaquin and you look off those houses, they're massive houses off the side, and there's no access. At least this has rear access. So I'm not sure, I think maybe we've got a dated zoning rule that probably needs to be readjusted based on our time, that where we are now and the sign of the times coming in the future, because I think it is restrictive in some respects. But I did see what they're proposing. It is an addition to the community. From what I could see, and I was on both sides of the property, it won't be like it's something sticking out in the middle of it would be so massive that it's going to just be sticking out like a sore thumb. It's blended into the topography and blended into the hillside area. So I just want to say, from my perspective, that's what I was looking at. If you look at it on paper, it looks one way. If you look at the slope and actually see the design and the engineering of it, it gives you a different perspective. So that's all I'm saying, Jeff.
Yeah.
Okay.
No, I
And
don't-
I understand that you're looking at what our current zoning code and what it says and how it is in place today.
Right,
So-
and the only point I wanted to make with respect to the access off Klamath is, that's where the garage is going to be.
Correct.
Sure.
So there will be an additional access for the RV garage at the bottom of
At
the
the
slope.
bottom of the side, right.
Yeah.
And I look at that street as all small streets. Even over on San Joaquin, they've got even worse traffic issue. At least this has got a hammerhead big enough that they can turn around. And I know that it's limited based on trash cans and stuff, but compared to some of the other locations we got, I'm not thinking that's the primary objection here, just based on what's being proposed.
You know, the other, walking the property with Mayor Pro Tem Green, and this leads me to a question to our Madam Clerk, because the calls in opposition, I'm curious if it's because the floor plans and the way that the project's being presented to us, it's the same footprint, so the view doesn't make quite sense with what they're proposing. So my question is the objection just because of the construction that's going to take place? Did anyone mention the frustration of what would happen with a project like this in that regards?
Yes, there was one resident that mentioned concerns about being able to get large equipment down those small, narrow streets. There was some concern about that. None of the residents that I spoke to had concerns about views. None of that was
Okay.
brought up during the discussions.
That's good.
But
Okay.
yes, there was concern.
Mr. Mayor, if I may, just when the council is concluded with your questions for Mr. Morrissey, just want to let you know, as part of staff presentation, our deputy building official and our fire chief both have comments on this as well.
Perfect. That leads me to the chief, if you don't mind. That was some of the questions that I know, and that's why I was thankful that Mayor Pro Tem Green made himself available, because we wanted to make sure that when we're looking at this project, that fire access is not a problem. And maybe we can talk a little bit, Chief, about the new sprinkler systems that are required. I know that President Burke and I had a good conversation about water pressure and making sure that, some of these homes in the location that it's at have good, adequate water pressure in order to obtain these new high-end sprinkler systems. So if you can talk a little bit about the project in regards to a fire side of it and what you think.
Yes, so I did have an opportunity to review the project as the fire chief for the community, and as it has been commented on, for full disclosure, I do live off of Bonanza, and I'm located within the noticing area. Klamath is a small cul-de-sac, and there is what we call a wharf head fire hydrant at the top of the street there on Klamath, so there is firefighting access and capability from the top of the structure. The road the secondary access to it, the access is gained off of Bonanza, but it is a small private easement that goes down mostly for utility purposes, and it does services many houses down there. It is substandard. There are no fire hydrants on that road. It is very narrow, and it is virtually impossible to turn around unless you're turning around on a property. The trash trucks back out of the community off of that road. So access is extremely difficult. I was able to provide comments on the project, and I did ask if it was going to be built that it would have enhanced fire sprinkler systems in the structure. A typical fire sprinkler system is what we call a 13D, or for a dwelling, and it's called a life safety system. And it's really designed to give occupants the opportunity to egress the building if there is a fire. It's not really designed to put the fire out. It's designed to hold the fire in check so that the occupants can egress. A more robust sprinkler system, such as a 13R or a full 13 system, is what I recommended be installed so that all rooms have sprinkler system, all enclosed spaces have sprinkler system, the attics have sprinkler systems, and so that way full coverage is provided. I did talk about access and turnarounds. There is concern with a sprinkler system of that magnitude with the water requirements that would be needed for that, if the water system would be sufficient. They haven't done the water flow test yet, so I can't tell you if it is or not. But Vacation Drive is right off of Klamath. It's right there. It very well may be able to meet the fire flow requirements for a sprinkler system. The work hasn't been done yet, so I can't answer that. So those were most of my concerns, is A, access, and then B, fire sprinkler, fire control.
Go ahead.
We have that same access issue on Bonanza, though, also. We've got, what, 5 houses, 6 houses there?
Are you talking off of Bonanza or off the easement?
Off the easement off of Bonanza.
Correct. Those existing structures
You've got
are,
structures that are at street level that run all the way to the hillside, all the way down.
that is correct.
And so they're on both sides. Some of them are on Vacation, some of them are on Bonanza. But that easement, I guess that's what you'll call it, traverses the backs of those places, which are the entrance for those houses.
On some of them, it's the entrance, on some of them, it's a back area. I mean,
Yeah.
each house is kind of unique the way it's designed and built.
Yeah. Some of them have parking up on top, and then they go down. So it's kind of it's a different, because of the topography, they maximized how they could utilize all the space.
That is correct.
Okay. And all those houses on those, are they all sprinkled by any chance? Do you know?
I don't believe probably any of them are sprinkled because of the time that they have been there.
And the current available water on Bonanza is what?
I do not have that information available to me.
Any fire flows at all?
Not that I'm aware of. The nearest project has been a little bit further down on Vacation towards the fire station that was done, and they met the fire flow requirements for that one. And the fire flow requirements were probably in the area of about 875 GPMs for 2 hours.
Those, I believe those current systems that's in there are single 2.5s, aren't they?
Correct, yes. They are warhead fire hydrants.
They really are
in that.
not hydrants.
They are not what we would like to see in the community, correct?
Okay, thank you.
So Chief, from your professional opinion, would you consider the sprinkler system that you would propose for this project an upgrade for this home?
It would be an upgrade for the home.
Substantial upgrade.
And the reason why we would want to do something like that, sprinkler systems are 98% successful. And so that is a great thing. Fighting a fire in this occupancy, our firefighters are going to access the building from Klamath. The access at the bottom on the private easement is too narrow and too difficult really to get apparatus in there. You're only going to be able to get one in there, and then you're going to have to back them all out. I haven't seen full construction plans. Are they planning a hammerhead or some kind of turnaround on the property? I don't know the answer to that question. And then conversely, though, when you're fighting a fire, if the fire is on the lower level, we don't want to enter at the top part. So that's why we would want an enhanced sprinkler system in there, is to try to control that fire, because we as firefighters would be walking into a very hazardous and dangerous environment of walking into a chimney is what we call it, of going in at the top of a building and down to get to the fire.
Any other questions? We're working through it, good? Good. Chief, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, our Deputy Building Official, David Harden.
I have a question about that.
Yeah, go ahead.
My question is, if the easement is substandard, is there a way to fortify it or fix it or address that?
Talking to the chief?
I'm talking to whoever deals with the easement. Wouldn't everyone benefit from a better easement? Can we
I'm
do
sorry,
that?
I didn't hear the question, I'm sorry.
If the easement is substandard, can that be addressed to the benefit of the neighborhood then, if that's a concern for you?
I think any improvement to that easement would benefit all of the homes down there. I believe, unfortunately, because of property lines and everything else, and I haven't looked at it, I'm just not sure that there's room to widen the easement anymore. So what we have down there is what we have. Now, again, I haven't seen engineering plans on that, but just from my personal knowledge of the area where walls and everything are, I think it would be difficult to make it any wider.
Is that easement on your deed considered a fire lane or just a access easement?
Utility access easement.
Okay,
There are water lines and sewer lines and so forth going under the easement.
okay, so that's how it's deeded?
Correct. It's a utility private access easement.
Okay.
Okay.
Did that answer your question?
So
Kind of.
I just wanted to clarify if I could. So an easement is something that's placed on private property, and there's an easement, it's in favor of someone. So when we discuss enhancing the easement, for example, if there's a sewer easement there, it would be the entity that's owner, if you will, of the easement. And if they desired for it to be expanded, it would have to be in conjunction with the property owners that it's expanded upon. So it depends who the easement is in favor of and how that works with the adjoining property owners and whether or not they are willing to accept any change in that, if that's the question.
So I just wanted to clarify, I don't really have a position for this either way. I mean, this is really your decision, but there's a couple of things that I wanted to clarify based on questions that you had asked. One specifically for Larry, your comment was in regards to, it slipped my mind. Can you remind me what your concern was when you asked your question? So I can respond to it.
There's about 5 or 6.
I know. I remember, Casey, if you want to look at your notes, I can go to Casey. There was one of the things that you mentioned was the building height.
Yeah.
based on the building height, the way that the zoning, they have a average that they go off, and I'm not even sure how it works, but that's not the same as the building department. The building department goes from finished grade from the very bottom of the building to the very top point of the structure, which is 58 feet, not 40. So it's considerably more than a foot and 2 inches or whatever. So that's important for you to know. Not that it has any bearing, but it's not just a foot and a half like you think.
Well, can I just ask you then?
Sure.
That information was not in the staff report, and I
Yeah.
understand that one is for zoning and one is for building. Is
Right.
there a rule specific in the building?
There is.
And what is that?
So that's changed, and that's, thank you. Now you just reminded
Okay.
me what I was going back to there. So, and I'll answer yours in just a second, but I want to answer his first. So you had asked if there was a code, where the code was that the 4-story and the 40 feet. And he said that there was nothing, that particular, what he was referencing was a ordinance, not a state level. The building code does have a state level requirement, and that is, and you mentioned all the other buildings that are in the community already all of them were built illegally, period. All of them, every one of them. They were illegal. But I can tell you this, as of July of 2021, they changed the rules. And now it was 3 stories and 40 feet. Now it is 4 stories and 60 feet. But, yeah, works good for you guys. Thank you. But, there's a big but there, and Jeremy brought it up a minute ago. The big but there is the fire requirements. The fire requirements now are extreme. They require a high volume, an alarm system, very integrated sprinkler system that allows them to go up that additional amount, which is something that wasn't in place in years prior.
Gotcha.
So all the homes that were done before were done illegally.
And that's why we have.
So
our own
basically,
building
what the
department.
code is doing is taking
Right?
larger, I'm sorry,
Mayor Pro Tem Green, the floor is yours.
So if I understand this right, because I worked as a fire marshal, one of the things we do as trade-offs in a building, Chief knows this.
That's correct.
Is you enhance systems. You might get a trade-off. You can do a 4-hour wall.
That's correct.
Or you can do separation constructions with 0 penetrations.
Yes, sir.
Floor through the roof. Or you can enhance the water systems or the response systems, or a combination of all.
Correct.
To accommodate. The end result is a fire-safe building that's got adequate notification for the occupants. 2, fire suppression control with the new sprinkler systems, which is different than the houses we used to talk about.
Correct.
So if all those requirements are met, then they are meeting the requirements of the building code. Would that be correct?
Yes and no. So it's kind of a loaded question, because when you look at the building code, the way the building code is written, the code books are designed for conventional framing, a standard. If you stay within these perimeters, then you can do this. We're going to allow, it's like a city standard, like a block wall thing we used to have. If you'll stay within these perimeters, you can do this. This is what we allow. Based on that, all the code books, and there's like 15 code books, they're all working in synergy with one another. So the electrical code and the plumbing code and the mechanical code, the energy code, the structural codes, all of them work together so that when everything's all done, we have a safe build, as safe as it can make it. When you start tweaking things over here, it affects something over here. It always does. It's impossible for it not to. When they made this change, they based it on life safety, fire is what they were concerned about. So by allowing them to change the height and the story, they considered how much time it would take to get them out. So that's basically live fire in structural terms. They are always concerned about how much time they can give somebody to get out of the house before they put their lives in danger. Based on that, the alarm system that they've allowed gives you enough time to get out of the house, but it doesn't talk about all the other things that are affected. Now, there are new codes coming in. For example, let me give you an example. So an energy code is coming out in 2023. It's a brand-new code. It's requiring that anytime you have a fixture, a plumbing fixture, more than 100 feet away from your water heater, you have to put a pump in now. So, as an example, they're a 10,000 square foot home. They could theoretically have 4 or 5 different pumps because they want to make sure that by the time it gets to where it's going, it's hot, so that they don't have to run the faucet for 15 minutes to get hot water. That's the intent. They're trying to save water, they're trying to save energy. That's the intent. We don't know, since this is a brand-new change they just made, we don't know all the peripheral effects it'll have. But the intent that they did by allowing it was just based on this alarm system. So they're only considering how long it takes for them to get out of the house. They're not considering all the other things involved, because it really is all synergy. The way the whole code book works, it's all synergy.
Sure. Are they requiring the alarm to be monitored or local?
It has to be monitored, well.
Monitored by a monitoring company?
Has to be monitored by a monitoring company.
Okay.
It also, and I honestly, I haven't looked at it because it's extensive.
This
I
is-
just know that it's, they refer to it as a, I think it's like an Alarm 3. I've never seen it yet because it's a brand-new code. So I would have to investigate. If you want more information, I can get you more.
Sure. Is it in the fire code, chief? A monitored system on a residential?
One that exceeds these perimeters, the 15-foot or the 60-foot.
Typically, any structure that has a fire suppression system, a fire sprinkler system, if it's under 100 heads, it's not required to be monitored. It's
Right.
just required to have a local water flow alarm.
Right.
You can, through local direction, require more stringent requirements, and if this home were built, this would be something that I would look for to add, would be a monitored alarm system for this structure, yes.
Okay.
But it is not part of NFPA 72 or the fire code that a typical residential building is there. All that's required is one external alarm.
And they weren't designed for that. The function is two different things.
Correct. That's why we talked earlier about a 13D sprinkler system, a 13R residential for like an apartment complex, and a 13 system, which is for a commercial building. A commercial building over 100 heads is required a full monitor alarm system, 2 telephone lines, all that NFPA 72 requirements.
Okay, thank you.
You guys have any more questions for me?
Any questions? I think we're good.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Any other discussion? Not yet. All right. Testimony by proponents?
Yes, we'll start with Ken Newman.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for your time. I really appreciate it, and I want to be respectful of your time. And I am the property owner. My wife and I moved here 7 years ago and fell in love with Canyon Lake, just like everyone, right? We fell in love with it, rented a house on Gray Fox, loved it, found this great property, unique property. All the lots in Canyon Lake are unique, right? But this one is extra unique. Anyway, spent a lot of time, effort, energy to figure out a way to build our dream home, our legacy home on Canyon Lake. It's very challenging. It's very unique. You've seen what it looks like from Klamath Court. Looks like a little teeny 2-story house, not blocking anybody's view. It's all building down to this easement on Bonanza. So it's. I just want to make it clear that it's 3 stories of livable space. It's technically not. It's a 4-story structure. One of those stories is strictly a garage on Klamath Court. So we can pull in. That actually resolves the trash issue. Our trash cans will be up on Klamath, not in that alley where there's literally 30 trash cans lined up, and they send one trash can truck down to collect, whether it's yard waste or recycled waste or trash, it's one truck picks up all those cans. Anyway, the trash issue won't be an issue. So, as the fire chief explained, this home was designed with a 13R system, the highest fire suppression system for a residential. That's already designed into the house per the chief's request. We would like to be able to get this project done. I think it'd be a really big benefit for the community. It's not a monstrosity at all. If you've ever, I thank you, Jeremy and Larry, for going out to the property, and if you see the property, you understand completely that this isn't some huge monstrosity of a building. It's you're not even gonna know it's there, but anyway, we are just here today to see how we can get this done with your cooperation and our cooperation, and work together to get it done.
My name's Chris Hansen. I'm a consultant for Ken, between the builder, designer, and him and his wife. So, like Ken said, one thing you need to understand is from Klamath Court, if you're standing in the cul-de-sac looking at the property, you do not see the house, the current structure at all. You see just the chimney stack. That is it. The house to the left, you see a full 2 stories. The house to the right, pretty similar. So if there were some complaints about, hey, we're gonna lose our view, all we're asking for is what the neighbors already have. We're gonna keep the same exact footprint. So the people to the left and right, if they're thinking they're gonna lose their views out of a side profile, it's not gonna happen. We're not encroaching anywhere out past our easement. We are staying within the current building envelope that we have to work with. We're going up. And like Ken said, it technically is a 4-story structure, one being completely garage space. And the fire suppression it's exactly what they had asked for. We're delivering what is needed. After reviewing the staff report, I mean, are there any other concerns that you guys want to bring to us while we have the builder here, myself, and the homeowner? Is there
I have a question.
anything we're missing?
I have a question.
Please.
So it sounds like you've taken the recommendations of the fire chief.
100%. It is sitting in the porthole right now for them to review. I mean, it's there.
If they came with additional recommendations, or the building department came with additional recommendations, would that be an issue?
We are open for suggestions. Like, we just don't want the door slammed in our face and everyone to dig their heels in. Otherwise, nothing's gonna get accomplished. Like, we're open to hear what you guys have to say, and we'll bend, we'll curve, we'll do what needs to be done, just so we can get, I mean, he's a year and about $125,000 into this building process. So we don't wanna scrap this, we don't wanna redesign it, but if it's within reason, we're open. We'd like to hear suggestions, and we'll take it back to the drawing board and we'll see what we can do.
Councilwoman Dane, and then Mayor Pro Tem Green.
Can I show this to you? Is this,
That is
this is what you're
That-
upgrading?
Yes,
Correct.
that's
And is
correct.
this is the neighbor's house?
That is correct.
And this won't be higher than that?
It will not be higher than that.
Okay. Will it be the same height?
It will be real close to the same
Okay.
ridge height. It'll be real close to the same ridge height, yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
And
And it's not gonna protrude out any more than the current house is. Like, that is the building envelope. We are just
is
going
this
up.
Klamath?
No,
No.
Klamath is on the other
This has
side.
been, this is.
That's the easement road.
Okay, yeah, that's been-
Yeah.
Do you know who that easement benefits?
Chris, if you don't mind in the microphone.
Okay, sorry.
No worries.
It benefits any homeowner that chooses to use it. You know, whether they have their garage on the easement road or they have their garage on the main access street, which is Vacation or Bonanza or Klamath.
But do you know, as it was explained,
Yeah.
who kind of owns the easement? Is it for the sewer? Is it for a specific homeowner?
It's a shared service
Yeah,
easement.
Yeah, so my understanding is everybody's you know, the people on vacation and the people on Bonanza, their properties meet somewhere right in the middle of the street.
Okay.
But it's an easement for the guy all the way at the end, which happens to be Mr. Newman. It allows him to access his property down below. And they're all deeded easements. I mean,
Yeah.
they can't be taken away. They are there.
Do you understand that part? Yeah. I should have pulled title on everyone's property. Mayor Pro Tem Green?
Yeah, and one thing I wanted to also too, so we have letters coming, so if you guys don't make your decision tonight, but we have letters from both neighbors that are on board with the bill.
Mayor Pro Tem Green?
When we were walking the property down on the, I'll call it the Bonanza easement, you indicated that you currently have a back-end turnaround, that you were going to make that into a wider turnaround, or did I misunderstand that?
It's not designed that way right now, and we'd like to try to get around from doing that, because that's his backyard. But right now, I mean, everybody uses it anyways right now. I mean, we can go on our live feed cameras and see the trash truck uses that. Every UPS or FedEx driver that goes down there to deliver packages for the neighbors use the driveway anyway. So it's kind of there, but he's got a 45-foot motorhome that he gets in the driveway, drives down the street, turns around, and pulls back out forward with a 45-foot motorhome. I don't know the length of the fire trucks, but.
33? Yeah, the motorhome was parked in the driveway when we were there too, and it's a 45-foot Class A motorhome. Yeah, you can see there.
Okay.
Good?
Yeah.
Any other questions? Do we have any more proponents cards filled out?
No.
Chris, anything else? Good?
I'm good. If you guys have questions, we'll be here.
Perfect. All right, testimony by opponents.
Yes, we'll start with David, is it Godera? Okay, sorry. Come on up.
Okay. I have a property down there at 29591 Vacation Drive. I'm 2 houses from this proposed project. And I want to just give a little bit of perspectives of what's going on. I've been living there now for 24 years. And when I first moved there, it was all dirt. There was no pavers, there was no pavement. The 2 neighbors that have since moved, we paid for that whole process to be paved because the POA gave us notice that they were responsible for no maintenance of that at all. So when we had rainstorms, man, it was really bad. So we paved, the 3 families split that, and you can see at 29605, you can see where the pavers start. Interlocking pavers go to the property that they're currently talking about. My concern is, who's going to be responsible for the damage? That is such a narrow passageway. Right now, they keep talking about the trash trucks. The reason that trash trucks don't go past 29605, and you can verify this, is because the city has said they don't want to be responsible. There's sewer lines and water lines under those interlocking pavers, okay, that go directly across and all the way down the whole pathway. I've been informed from several people that are builders that you're talking about 48 to 78,000 pound trucks, because we're talking about total demolition, okay? How are they going to get all that out of there? Are they going to be bringing cranes in from Klamath Court? Because that's my home. That's where I live. If you were there, that's my front yard, okay? My wife, we have grandkids, and they go back and forth 10, 15 times a day there. If you're down there, you can see the damage that's already been done on the pillars where the koi pond is. One's being held up by rope. Tiki torches knocked down. Everything's been knocked down from people turning around in there because it is narrow. You know, I mean, it's not very wide. How are you going to get 48, 70, I was just told today, It could be more than 78,000-pound trucks going down there to demolition all that. I know they keep talking about the height and the water. I'm more concerned about the damage that's already been done on my property, which I don't care. I'll take care of it myself. I know the trucks have to turn around in there, but the damage that would happen from this is huge. It's huge. I mean, if you walk that pathway right there, and I respect all of you, and I really appreciate the time that I get to come in here and talk. Did I already go to 3 minutes? Wow.
Yeah.
All right. But I need to know what the plan is to get all that demolition out of there. Are those trucks going to be going down there and being in front of my house the whole time, and I'm going to be getting in, asking them to move? So many people have almost been hit. You guys know we put speed bumps all the way down there.
Right.
We call it a launching pad. They get past that last one, and I don't want to exaggerate, but they go 30 miles an hour to get to that property. It's called ingress, means that you can enter your property. Egress means they can leave. Nobody is allowed to go past their property to go any further down.
Right.
Okay? Because you guys have been discussing, no, nobody uses that. That's our front yard. Okay? I've been trying to explain this to people that come down there all the time. That's our backyard. Okay?
Does the council have any questions?
I do have a question.
Sure.
Sorry to interrupt you.
No, it's okay.
Just, so, and I've been taking notes, so and I don't want to misquote you or state what you're saying, so
Yeah.
if you can correct me if I'm not understanding this. It appears to me that you're opposed to construction as opposed to the variance.
Yeah,
Fair.
I need to know what the plan is to get all the demolition out of there.
Okay.
Right now, from what I understand, it's just bringing the trucks down and loading everything up and getting it out of there. I've seen I know we talk about San Joaquin, right? And we talk about different easement roads. But if you look at most easement roads, when a easement goes, it's all everybody's backyard. You can go look around. It's their backyards. There's walls, and it's just like an alley. But this is.
So,
Go
okay,
ahead.
so then I think I'm on the same page as you. Do you have a suggestion if either the plans were modified or the variance was approved, how you could work with your neighbors to get it accomplished?
They'd
Or
have
are
to
you
bring,
just-
what I've heard, and I've talked to a couple of people, they'd have to bring cranes from Klamath Court. Take everything out through Klamath Court. That's the only way, because if you walk that property, the trash trucks will not go past 29605, because the city said, we can't be responsible for damage that's done to these properties. And they've been doing that for 24 years. I've been there 24 years now, and everybody's got to bring their trash cans up because they can't cross it.
Hey, go ahead, Councilwoman Dane.
Can I ask Mr. Newman what the plan is for the construction piece of it, the demolition? Or
If
can
I
not?
may, we will have a chance for a response for proponents. So if we can get through the opponents, and then they will have a chance to speak.
Thanks.
Any other questions?
That's a good question.
Okay. You can sit down. I got a question, Mr. City Manager, not for you. In regards to construction, first of all, it's the POA, not the city, that's enforcing, that road, just to be aware of that and the damages that are being taken to the homes with vehicles turning around. From a city standpoint, Mr. City Manager, I know that we constantly approve construction sites, and we have a job and a due diligence to view that site to make sure that it's compliant for safety reasons, material wastes, we can go on and on. Can you describe a little bit about how that's done day in and day out, or would you like building department to do that?
This is a tough one, to be honest with you. Not really as a staff prepared to discuss at that detail how this construction might work. We'd have to powwow as a staff and figure out how to approach that.
President Burke, would you mind speaking? I'll fill out the comment card for you. Are you familiar with that easement?
I'm not, but I have grave concerns after what I heard this evening. I would imagine that it's our utility road. I'm just guessing based on, I pulled up Google Maps to see where it was, and I would imagine.
Thank you for doing that. It is, I didn't know about it.
I'm going to go look at it,
Yeah.
by the way, if they'll be kind enough to show me, because one of the things I would imagine is some of the encroachment is actually on EBMWD property. So if you have beachfront, I don't know where the encroachment is. It looks like there's some people that might have it looks like an outdoor kitchen or something, or there looks like, not just on your property, but around. There are facilities very close to the water line that I can't tell where our property ends and yours begins. If there's sewer lines there and there's pavers, okay.
Yeah, we are on this side of the sewer. We're not even going over the sewer lines. We're not encroaching on
Right. No, I'm talking about the road, which seems to be the concern for egress, ingress, construction, all of that. So I'm not.
Address that, Chris, when you come up on the proponent
So
side.
I have I'd have to see it. For us, if the footprint of the house stays the same, we have no, it's a moot
Right.
point.
Right.
You know, if you had encroachment, for example, if you had a pool that was actually on EBMWD land and you pulled it out and wanted to put a new pool in, that probably isn't going to happen.
Right.
But otherwise, my concern really goes back to the gentleman who was talking about the access road or alley, or I haven't seen it, and if there's pavers there, if pavers are the only thing between you and sewer and water, I'm concerned.
It's deeded in, they're lettered lots, and they're deeded into our property. Our homeowner's insurance, I pay from the top where top of vacation is, all the way to the water. My homeowner's insurance goes all the way out to the water.
Mr. Mayor,
It's almost-
we
it's
need to-
about an acre property.
So,
We're gonna stop the back and
Right.
forth because
So
we got
I-
to stick to.
I'm going to have to go look, and if
Right.
we need to bring staff or engineering with me, I'm happy to do that if there's any concern about the
Yeah,
road or.
I think Mayor
or-
Pro Tem Green and myself just wanted you to be aware, more importantly, but also, you know, it's a utility road for certain reasons. And the access is crucial, not just for construction, but also for service.
Right.
And we need to be aware of that, and since we now have such a phenomenal relationship with EBMWD.
Thank you.
So many years of hard work, I think if we can look at that and make sure that we're doing neighbors just with this project and future projects as well, but if we're well aware of it. Do you have a specific question?
The easement that is a sewer easement, they've identified.
Correct.
And they actually did point it out to us that it's probably one of the laterals that they ran, instead of going down the street, they ran it across and through properties. They've been made aware of it. Apparently, they have had to deal with EBMWD because of where it's located.
Okay.
So they've identified it. They're not on it. Matter of fact, and they even pointed it out to us that probably because of the discussion with your engineers, they've went up to it, and then on the other side of it, so whatever that width of that pipe and however deep it is probably buried pretty deep.
Let's hope so.
Yeah, let's hope so. They're in compliance with that, because that was one of the things they brought to our attention, was one of the first things they had to address, because it did traverse their property.
Yeah.
So I'm going to guess that probably runs underneath a lot of those houses
Oh, yeah.
that are coming down off that
Yes.
hill, because I doubt if they followed that utility easement to terminate it.
I'm sure they did not.
So I'm going to think it comes off the hill, terminates, goes across and back up.
Yep.
So all I can say is from when we walked it, they did bring that to our attention, that this was one of the things that they had identified, had to work through, and had to come to an agreement that they're not even going to be close to it. So, but as far as the roadway itself, or I'll call it the driveway that the people use for access to their homes, because that's been what it's been used for.
Right.
I don't know what is down that. I don't know if people's power is coming off the back of their homes. I don't know where your feed comes in, where the water lines come in.
Yeah, I have no idea either. So, I mean, obviously, you know, for our EBMWD's perspective for this house, it's a moot, that's on you.
And it's, to be honest,
Right.
after walking it, it is so far away.
Right.
It's not even an issue. But I do think, if anything, we've learned about a service road that we need to be aware of.
Right, so I'm just going to follow up on that part. I thank you all for bringing it to my attention.
Yeah.
And, because my concern is obviously pavers should not be between sewer pipe and
Right.
water pipes.
Absolutely. Do we have any more opponents?
We do. John Guzman.
John, the floor is yours. Thank you for coming tonight, John.
Well, thank you very much for having this public hearing. In fact, John Guzman, do we still give lot numbers?
No, you don't have to do that here at the city.
It's been a long time.
Yeah.
And hopefully, I hope I am not the bad neighbor, honestly. But I'm the one that lives on Vacation Drive. I've got that stone around the house, and it looks right into, and I've got, my wife and I have a peekaboo view of the lake. And we really like it, but maybe my concerns are misdirected, I'm not sure, because I was looking at the height as being quite a bit higher than I've been told. Is it true that it will extend above Klamath Court?
They'll respond to your question on they're going to come back up and respond to your question on the height from the curb. You're asking about, you're from Vacation, right? So you're asking from Klamath, the height from the curb to the height of the...
Yes, and the roof, because it looks like, right now it's down below, as you know. And so when we sit on our patio in the front, we've got a beautiful view of the sunsets. And
John, I believe because your house is setting up already?
Yes.
On that side of Vacation, based on what I have seen and what it looks like, you'll still look over it. The rest of the house is going down the slope.
Correct.
So it is not going to be completely up.
Okay, and that's good, because I wanted to understand that.
Yeah, so that's why we have these hearings.
Good.
That's why we do these hearings, absolutely.
Okay, yeah, I had drafted up in some notes here to make my 3 minutes, but basically, and you've covered most of it already, I think the fire issue, is the fire department going to be able to handle it? We do want to be good neighbors, by the way. Everybody in the community, works together. I think that's the secret to having a great bit of paradise here. And let's see, the kids, the safety issue, we do have kids that play on that court. They play out there all the time, and I believe they have the kids down below as well are playing. So but I guess that would be during construction.
Safety, yep.
Yeah, be an issue. Precedent, that we do, and again, this has more to do with the height. If we go beyond that restriction of height, then that opens us up to other homes in the shore next to the water that might want to do the same thing. So again, maybe that's not an issue. Let's see, safety. I think there was one other thing I had. The neighbors, I did talk to some other neighbors, but they may be under the same misunderstanding about the height. But again, they didn't want to be bad neighbors, and so they don't want to complain, but there's concern. So perhaps if once maybe have a little model or something so people can see it and have a way for them to come in and talk to
You nailed it, perfect timing.
I think that's it. Thank you very much for allowing me to talk.
Thank you, appreciate you coming up. All right, do we have any more testimony by opponents?
No more opponents. I do just want to remind the public and Mr. Guzman that the agenda is available online on the city's website. There are some pictures. Councilmember Dane was kind of referring back to the pictures. So they are on the city's website if you want to take a look, and it might help when the proponents are responding to some of your questions. That's all I have. But we can move on to response by proponents.
All right, let's move on. Response by proponents.
I have Terry Axel.
I was just going to answer to the question about demolition. First, my name's Terry Axel. I'm the builder. I live in Canyon Lake, and what I want to say about construction is I've been doing it for a long time. I've been doing it since 1988, licensed as a general. And it's not fun for anybody. It's a lot of things, a lot of movement, and it's I call it controlled chaos, okay? Because there's a lot of movement, a lot of things going on. In my mind, Canyon Lake, it's not going to be the first house getting taken down. It's probably going to become a thing, just like it is down in the beach communities. I'm from Orange County, tore down a lot of houses down there. Canyon Lake is a very ideal place to live. People are going to want to come here and take these small houses and tear them down and build bigger houses. So what's going to happen? So that's the future, and to me. As far as trying to keep control over it, that particular house, Ken wants to save most of the lumber. So we're going to take it apart piece by piece and stick it into trash containers or Conex boxes, shipping containers. Kind of crazy, okay, but that's Ken, okay? And it's like a task just to take it apart, but we're not going to be in there with a dump with an excavator. Typically, I'll have that house torn down one day. Come in with an excavator, scrape it, pile it to the ground, and stick it in a trash can or trucks, and it's gone. One day. This is going to take us probably a month to tear this house down, piece by piece. Okay, it's going to be going out a little bit at a time. It's not going to be some massive craziness with dust flying, which we have to control anyway. The dust has to be controlled. So it's a little different situation as far as the demolition. Everything else, when I'm on the job, which I live in Canyon Lake, so it's going to be easy to be on the job, it's just daily organization. We're on the job. My job's, if you guys want to come take a look, in La Crest, I'm building a 9,500 square foot house right now. It's super clean. Job site's going to be clean. The street's going to be clean. Your access road is not going to be, it's going to be blocked when it has to be, when people are just going back and forth, but it's not going to be people parked. I'll be back there making sure things are happening the way it's supposed to happen, keeping the neighbors as happy as I possibly can under the circumstances with all the flow. Okay, but there's a lot of houses that were built on that street. Okay, all those houses that you see on the left-hand side and the right, probably half of them, were built off of that little street. You know, so at some point, all those houses were constructed and they used that little street. So now we're at a stage of Canyon Lake where we're going to start tearing them down. That's probably the first house in Canyon Lake getting torn down, to my knowledge. I don't know. But it's the future. You know, it's such an ideal piece of property, and what we're building there really fits. And what I just want to make clear is that the back, which I'm sure we tried, but where the back wall is on that house is the back wall of the new house. So it does not change any view angle on the back side of it. It fills from the back wall to the street, where there's a gap right now.
Okay.
Okay? Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate the time. Okay, I'm going to officially, I'm going to close the public hearing at 8:37. Okay, discussion by City Council. Everyone at once.
I'll go.
All right.
Okay.
Mayor Pro Tem Green.
Thanks everyone that's come to give comments, and those who aren't here that has commented, because that is also an important part of our jobs, is to hear how it's going to fit the neighborhood and how it's going to impact the neighborhood, and is it aesthetically going to be pleasing. I take personal pride in going out and seeing things and understanding how they are so that I can have a better visual view personally of what the project's going to look like, and will it enhance the current situation that they're at. And all of those is yes. First question I asked after walking the property and having a presentation was, how high is that front elevation? Because they showed me a front elevation, which is this guy, 27 feet to the peak. Everyone around him is higher than that. So from this standpoint, 25.2, this piece here, which then it goes down. We've got to remember, this thing drops 30 feet, so it's quite a drop. So I realize that there are changes in our state, and there are changes in our communities, and there are changes in this county that are changing what used to be on single-family homes and heights of homes and square footage of homes. That's why we've got built-in safety systems such as sprinklers, life safety systems, exiting alarm systems, and the whole list of construction requirements. So I think, based on the staff report, which is very complete, Jim, is that for our community, for me looking at it, and for looking at the future, because we do have things that are being proposed, that I look at our current city zoning ordinance, and one of the recommendations is that we modify it. And I think from my viewpoint, for only this project, because I hate just singling one project out and then another week somebody else comes along. I believe we need to set our zoning requirements currently to reflect the building department and currently to allow, if it fits in the area and it's not overbearing and it is out of sync with the neighborhood, then I think this is one of our things in our code that doesn't need to be amended. So my recommendation is to take the recommendation that Jim did and modify our current building code, or, excuse me, our ordinance, and as well as our amended code to allow and permit 4 stories if they fit the appropriate property.
Any other comments?
I also want to thank the members of the community who came out to give feedback and contribute to our decision-making, because I did not walk the property. I know where the property is. I personally think that the last speaker, Mr. Excel, made some very good points about staying within the community structure, but realizing that these things are going to change. From my perspective, I believe that Mr. Newman has made some good points about working with his neighbors and being cooperative. I think it was good that you were here to hear their issues face to face, because disregarding those issues would make you the bad neighbor. So I think it was a very productive discussion.
Councilwoman Dane, do you have anything? Okay. I just want to say that the Newman project, I think this is an enhancement to the community. I think that our issues and concerns when it comes to a fire issue, actually, you're making it a safer place to live. I think it's absolutely beautiful. And I know for me, I hate the idea of government getting in the way of enhancing our community. And we should be working with our residents as best we can. Obviously, Sacramento has its own mindset on what they try to dictate here in our city, and we try to fight back. But I will second Larry's suggestion on moving forward with, we also have to look at the height restriction too for this particular project. I mean, 4 stories, but it's 41.2, and we're at 40 feet. So I think we would have to also look at the height restriction.
Yeah, and my recommendation would be the height.
Yes.
And because it does specifically reference stories.
Correct.
Make that the second piece of it.
And I agree with you, Mayor Pro Tem, in a case-by-case scenario, because after you and I walk the lot, it's clear as day that the Newman project is using its exact, footprint. And it's because they're forced to do that because of the lay of the land. So I think this ordinance needs to be written in a way where it is case-by-case, but I think we allow for the 4-story to exist with the height restriction of a case-by-case scenario. And for this one, it would obviously be 42 feet.
Yeah. And frankly, I think there was a comment made that the Property Owners Association has a ACC requirement of a height from the curb line.
I got it right here, it's 31 feet.
Yeah. I really think that our code does not have to be reflective of what their requirements are, because specifically we are the jurisdiction with the authority to enforce the fire code, the building code, and all applicable planning issues that go along with that. And I believe that in their half, if they're more restrictive, I think they have to be more in compliant with our code to be. So maybe that's why that was amended in ours. I'm not sure, but I think for our future, and I'm looking of the things that we've proposed in our center, I do believe our heights will start to change. Buildings will start to be demoed and changed just because it's what's happening. For those who haven't followed our state, we have requirements coming down, SB 9 and 10, which are modifying structures to turn them into multifamily from a duplex, triplex, or even bigger if you've got the room to accommodate housing. So we're trying to be proactive and ahead of the game. And if our codes aren't reflective of that, then I think it's upon us to try to bring them into compliance of today's things. And then if we have that case by case, then if we have something that's going to be so out of line with the community, then we can address it for that project only, but not have it as a total ban on height and stories. That's all I got to say.
Absolutely, go ahead.
I agree, and I appreciate the planning that goes into this, and I think with the site, the vision part of it doesn't seem to be a problem once we can really see what the actual height from the street is, and not going to be obstructing. And the plans with trying to mitigate the mess of construction, we talked about the chaos, is really helpful. I would just ask that as it goes along, that as Councilmember Castillo said, if there are some additional requests as we go, that can be
Worked on. I agree.
Thank you.
I have
I
one
agree.
more comment.
Absolutely.
It sounds like we are looking to adjust the ordinance and the different codes. In the interim, if that's our intent down the road, is there a reason why we wouldn't grant the variance now and look towards that to the future, since there will be, readings and all that down the road?
I think it simplifies it.
Well, let me address that real quick. So the staff recommendation is a denial of the variance. The planning department was not able to come up with any justifications for findings on this. If the council wants to look at approving a variance, we'd have to bring it back to you anyway. We'll need to go back and look at this in terms of how do we come up with findings to justify a variance. In light of that, it may make more sense just for staff to go back and work on adjusting bringing an ordinance that adjusts our zoning. We can have that done by our next meeting. But it's something that, we'll want to work with the planning department and the building department and the fire department and really think about how we can craft language that gives the flexibility for greater building height and additional stories where it makes sense, while at the same time, preserving safety and not taxing our fire department. Obviously, we don't have ladder trucks here, so a four-story building may not make sense in all cases if you're like 4 stories from the ground up. So I think we need to go back as a staff and work on language, but I think we can have something back to you in the way of an ordinance at the next meeting.
Mr. City Manager, I know that you had mentioned, the direction of staff was to deny the variance because they couldn't find probable cause to approve it. I know that David just mentioned that the state changed its requirements now in regards to 4-story, and they changed the height of the building to 60 feet, if I quoted you correctly. Isn't that in itself enough?
So what the deputy building official was referring to is state building code.
Correct.
Completely separate from what we're looking at from a planning perspective with the city zoning. 2 separate issues. You have to be in compliance with both. So from the city zoning code perspective, that language is still applicable, the maximum 40 feet, maximum 3 stories. So that's the language we need to tackle there.
I know that we are dark in August.
Correct.
Is there another way? I mean, we could do a special meeting, of course, but you need the time. So what goes into that? Are we looking at a whole new ordinance?
Yeah, we'd bring an ordinance that amends our zoning.
It's just the modification of the verbiage, is that correct? We don't need a complete new ordinance. It's just that section that talks about the stories, which you referred to, and the height. And I think if those are modified without a complete rewrite, unless we have to, I don't know.
That's Mr. City Attorney, are you on the phone? Wow.
He was there.
Guess we're doing an RFP on city attorney.
I'd like to submit for that RFP. You hear me?
I knew that.
Yes.
Getcha. Yeah, go ahead. I won't call.
Yeah. So if all we were looking at was changing the height, it's a relatively simple ordinance amendment. We take out 40, we put in 50, 60, whatever the council wants. The part of the ordinance that I think would require more work, and I think we need a little bit more direction on, is this case-by-case basis that the council is asking for. Generally speaking, we want to have objective standards for zoning requirements, and case-by-case implies a level of discretionary review that we don't have in the code.
Okay. So, Stephen, if the council's direction tonight was to make the simple changes to allow for 42 feet high with 4 stories, what would that look like as far as a timing mechanism?
We could have that ready to go at the next available meeting of the city council. If all you wanted to do was change the height that's permitted by the code, that's 2 sentences that need to be changed.
Okay.
I suspect it will end up being a little bit more complicated than that. So, for example, if the council does not want to go just across the board with a 4-story height, maybe you want to increase from 40 feet to 42 feet, 45 feet, but you want to keep the 3-story, maybe 3-story livable space. Maybe we play with that. Maybe it's 3 stories livable space. Depending on the topography of the site, you could have another level that's parking or whatever it is. I think that's the kind of language we need time to play with and examine.
David?
I do think we could get that language together very easily before the next meeting.
Yes.
Okay. That's good to know.
So I also, Chris brought up a great point, city manager brought up a great point. The fact that the planning requirements and the building requirements are separate. So we got to be careful that when we do, and again, I don't have an opinion either way. If you want to do this, that's fine. But we have to be careful when we adopt something based on what I told you to accommodate what he told you, because they're 2 separate entities. So we can adopt that language to say that the building requirements will be what we'll accept as a zoning reference as well. You could do that. But they have different results.
And I think this is the time to address the right hand talking to the left hand.
Yeah.
And maybe this is that opportunity to where we can make it a little bit more refreshing for our residents who are trying to build in this community and make it easier to do so. So it's not, so he said, she said, what do we do now? Let's spend more money. So you made a motion, kind of, sort of?
Well, I did, in the fact that I went off one of the recommendations that staff had made, instead of going for the variance, modify the planning document to reference, or not to reference, the 40 feet and the 4 stories to allow that to occur. So whether we put a height on it or we just eliminate it altogether and go case by case, because right now, according to our planning document, we are only allowing 3 stories.
Yeah,
30 foot high.
Correct.
So let me recommend, again, that we, it seems it's pretty clear that the council has a desire to alter the way that we approach these in general, that we need to take a look at our zoning and bring an ordinance that kind of fixes this, not just a one-off. So I think we've heard loud and clear from the council what you're looking for. Give staff a chance to go back and craft some language that we think makes sense, and bring it back to the next meeting. I guess my question for the city attorney and just process, what we have before us is a public hearing specifically on an application for a variance. So I would assume we would need still a vote of the council adopting Resolution 22-45, which denies the variance application, and then separately directing staff to bring back an ordinance that changes the zoning.
That's exactly correct, Mr. City Manager.
Okay.
So, just so, because I want to be clear on this, what I don't want to have happen is we come back to September and you present a new ordinance that we disagree with and we want amended, and then it goes back again, and then, now we're pushing this thing out to October and November. So, wait, real quick. So, with that in line, Mr. City Attorney, is there a way to avoid that? It sounds like the Newman project has been held up for quite some time. So I think this council is eager to do all we can to move this project forward in a timely manner. And considering we're dark next month, is there any direction you have, Mr. City Attorney, on the streamlined process of that? I know it's a difficult task to get government moving, but...
So I've got two ideas. One, I think it wouldn't be the worst idea if the council gave us 2 council members to run the draft by. You could call them an ad hoc planning advisory committee or something like that. 2 people we could run the idea by, so we know that what we're coming back with has at least been looked at by 2 council members. The other thing we could come back is we could come back with an urgency ordinance that amends it immediately. Because otherwise, you're going to have to do first reading, second reading, 30 days. So like you said, we bring it back in September, second reading is October, it doesn't go into effect until November. We could come back and have it be effective immediately in September.
What would the urgency ordinance look like, Mr. City Attorney?
It would look exactly the same as the regular ordinance would. We would just make findings that housing is important in Canyon Lake, and we want to support housing, so we're going to make this amendment immediately.
Okay.
Got it.
Hey, Jeremy, can I say one thing real quick? Just
sir.
a point of information for you guys to have. I don't know if you realize this is a year of the code cycles change every 3 years. So in October, we're going to be voting to adopt the new code anyway, which is going to have a lot of this language in it already. So you may not have to do some of the stuff you're planning on doing, just so you know. Okay.
Yeah, you want to make, no, sorry, can't, I'm under all these rules and regulations. You want to make a motion on it?
I'm going to make a motion that we amend our planning document to, it's our, not the planning document, wait a minute.
If I may, Mr. Mayor Pro Tem, I think what we need is a motion, first of all, to deny the variance.
Oh, deny the
So that would be adopt resolution number 2020-45, and then separately direct staff to go back and, bring an urgency ordinance at the next meeting.
I'm sorry, if I may, I currently have a motion by Mayor Pro Tem Green and a second by Mayor Smith. Are you withdrawing your original motion to now make the motion to adopt the resolution denying the variance?
Because I guess that's procedural, I would have to do that. I guess that's rescind it? Yes.
Thank you. And then, Mayor, you seconded. Do you also withdraw your second?
Nah, let's just hang it out there for a little bit and talk about it. Yes.
Thank you. Okay, so now you can proceed with making a motion and a second to adopt resolution number 2022-45 denying a variance application.
Okay, I make the motion to deny resolution number 2022-45.
Mr. Mayor Pro Tem, just a clarification, it would be adopting resolution number 22-45.
Adopting?
Yes, we adopt it because the resolution denies the variance.
It's getting late. I'll try this again.
You got this.
I'll make it, I'll make a motion to adopt resolution number 2022-45.
Point of clarification, Mr. City Manager, do you want him to make the amendment as well on top of that, or has that got to be accepted and done secondly?
No, I think staff has received direction enough that we will come back with the ordinance language at the next meeting.
Okay. Roll call.
Councilmember Castillo? Aye. Councilmember Dane? Aye. Mayor Pro Tem Green?
Aye.
Mayor Smith?
Aye.
Motion carried to adopt resolution number 2022-45.
All right, we're good with that.
And I'm sorry, you said you did not need a separate motion to bring back? Okay, and then
You don't need direction from council on that?
I feel I already have that direction, sir.
Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you. And then before we move on, will the council be appointing an ad hoc advisory committee as recommended by the city attorney? And if so, who will be the 2 members?
Show of hands?
I'll do it.
Perfect. We have Mayor Pro Tem Green, and we have Councilwoman Dane.
Perfect, thank you.
Bring something good, I like it. All right, we're moving on to business item 12. I am going to call for a 2-minute recess.
Okay.
It's 9 o'clock, and then that way they can leave and not make it awkward.
I know.
We're sticking to the 2-minute recesses, so.
I like it.
I know. Thank you, because she gives me the look. Our business item, we're going to move on. This is number 12. This is, and we feel so terrible because you had to sit here this entire time during all of this rhetoric, and I could have easily bumped you guys up, and that's the fault of the city manager, actually. It's not the fault of the guy running the meeting. Northwest, this is vector control. You guys are going to give us a little presentation. I heard it's going to be an hour and 30 minutes. Is that correct? I think you're like 5-8 minutes, right?
Right. Yeah. So I can talk for all day on this. I put my credentials up here a little bit to do an introduction. So thank you, Mayor, Mayor Pro Tem, council members, staff. Public?
They're watching. They're watching.
Yeah, no, I understand.
They're all on the TV.
I totally understand. But thank you for the invitation to come up. We'll just tell you a little bit about the services that we offer. As I said, I have my credentials up there. I am the newly hired district manager, although I'm about to complete my 2nd year. Past president of the American Mosquito Control Association, finishing that last year, and a lieutenant colonel and command entomologist in the U.S. Air Force Reserve.
Thank you for your service.
Thank you. I brought Eric Baleos, with our public information officer, to back me up tonight. We're called, a little bit of confusion, we're called the Northwest Mosquito and Vector Control District. We're a special taxing district within the county of Riverside. And what I wanted to point out there, I don't know if it probably doesn't show up on the video later, so I won't use even if there is a, well, there actually is, but, so we have two districts within within Riverside County, Coachella Valley, obviously to the east, and so we're located in the northwest part of the county, hence the name, but it is a little bit confusing. We provide service to 8 communities, and, 7 communities, and then we also have a representation from the county. So we have 8 trustees in total. The one from Canyon Lake was up until recently, the late Jordan Ehrenkratz, which, our beloved son here, and now is Dale Welty, who I think is the person that asked me to come down and talk to tonight. One of my bosses, so, glad to do it, right?
I know, we were just saying, it's not even here.
He's not even here.
But he's probably watching from home.
Yeah, he's probably watching you right now.
And by the way, he is an excellent trustee that we have. He provides, as you guys know, that he's recently retired.
Yeah.
Now he has a lot more time to think about how he's going to help us with mosquito control. But really, his knowledge in finance are important to us, and he's on our finance committee. So he jumps in with both feet. So really, when we talk about mosquitoes, I think to the average person, it's a mosquito, and what to an entomologist or a person who's dedicated their life to mosquito control, there's a lot of them. There's over 3,000 species in the world, probably 150 in the United States, and 60 in California. But really, we're concerned about 2 or 3, and in Canyon Lake, I'm just going to talk about 2 tonight. I'm going to talk about that maybe 3. That one that has a funny name, Quinque fasciatus. We usually just call it Culex quinques, and then Aedes aegypti. The first one I mentioned, Culex quinques, is our West Nile virus vector, and that is the sort of the endemic disease that we're kind of worried about. So there's really 2 things that we're thinking about in our community here. We're talking about nuisance mosquitoes that are biting us out on the patio and kind of impacting our quality of life, and then we have mosquitoes that are vectors that can get us sick, and some of the potential diseases that are out there are pretty serious. West Nile virus, each year, I've got two types of graphs here. I got what happened last year in 2021. It was a mild year in California. We had 98 human cases, and we take these mosquito samples that we collect and we test them for virus, and there were like 2,200 that were found within the state of California. We had relatively low activity in our area, and that's like a knock on wood situation. Part of it is the fact that we're doing mosquito control. Any place that usually you find mosquito control districts, whether it's in Florida, California, in Louisiana, they exist because there was previously probably a worse problem, and those of us that have dedicated our lives to it like to think that we're impacting it and making it better. And I have a lot of stories about that from my time in the Air Force. This year, we're just now starting to get into the season. If those of you who like to do what I do, sit by the pool in the afternoon, you might start noticing pretty soon that your legs or around your ankles get bit by this mosquito. It just arrived here in the last couple of years. So a lot of times when I first got here, and by the way, I grew up in Southern California, I left for 22 years, I come back, there's a lot more people here. You don't want to leave for 20 years and come back to California and try to buy property again too, by the way. But anyway, this new mosquito is I'm hearing as I moved around the community, hey, it's a really bad year with mosquitoes. Unfortunately, that mosquito is here to stay, and we are using all the scientific technology that we can to try to work with it. This is a little bit confusing. I've got looks like 5 years, the 5 previous years on each month, and then the number of mosquitoes. The point of this graph is to show that in the wintertime in January, there's not really a mosquito problem in Southern California and Canyon Lake. But and by the way, this is the entire mosquito service request in our entire district area of operations, right? Not just Canyon Lake. But in July, you're going to start to see movement. August, September, and we move all the way through October, and that's the time that we're going to be active. Okay. We come out to residents that say, hey, I have a mosquito issue. We come out to help you determine where that's coming from. You know, a lot of people are like, it's the neighbor's pool, or it's the lake. It's not the lake for mosquitoes, okay? So if someone's coming to you and going, the lake's causing mosquitoes, probably not mosquitoes. They don't like large bodies of water. They're in and around all of our houses, and these mosquitoes can develop in really small containers. And we use these types of traps here, and maybe I could come back sometime later and talk about it a little more in depth. But everything that we do is part of an integrated process. So we look at where the mosquito is coming from, and then we decide if we can make a treatment, and then we look at whether or not that treatment was effective. What this graph really is showing us is that, again, and I'm looking specifically at Aedes aegypti, this is that new mosquito that's here, and it's a potential vector of not West Nile virus, but things that are a lot more frustrating. Dengue, yellow fever, probably not going to happen here, but dengue and Zika, these are vectors, these are diseases that are moving around in places like Puerto Rico and Mexico. And guess what? We have a lot of folks from those communities that are traveling to those places. Some are doing it for vacation, some are seeing family. And if they bring that virus back now, and this is the thing that we're worried about, they're just getting sick. They are the reservoir for that virus. So now you don't know it. You just got back from the Yucatan or whatever, and you're sitting in your backyard. Now this mosquito bites you, and then it bites someone else, and we will have local transmission. We haven't had it yet, but that's what our concern is. And so this has become even more important for us, mosquito control. Since I left 20 years ago, I come back and I've been fighting Aedes aegypti around the world as an Air Force officer, and now I come back and it's here in where I grew up in Southern California. We can talk a little bit about the things that we were going to do. But in general, the good, of course, I've said coming back to California, it's more crowded. Hey, it's still beautiful. We have a great place to live. I love going walking, and the general vibe is let's keep everything, let's be careful with the environment that we have left, right? The other thing is staff members. I got excellent staff members. A lot of these people are careerists, like Eric here as well. And then, and so they dedicated themselves to identifying the problem and treating it. Of course, the bad is that we don't have rain here, and yet we have mosquitoes. So we are creating a situation that's always harboring mosquitoes. So what we're constantly trying to do is talk to people about their water use. And these are just some examples. These are, we've got utility vaults. And this is here at close by at the Riverside Library, and we're working with the community public works folks to open those up and let us get inside them and do the surveillance and do the treatment. Okay, we've also got just all these little small parts of water. Just like, for example, it's difficult to access that particular alleyway. It's not even an alleyway, you can barely walk it, right? But that type of water residual there could produce like literally tens of thousands of mosquitoes along that. And that's, if you're living next to that, you're gonna know about it, right? So that's the bad. So we've seen the good, and I'm not really gonna talk about the ugly tonight because we've had a long night. But that's what we're doing. You can look us up, Northwest Mosquito and Vector Control. We come to your house. Obviously, since we're a taxing organization, our services are free. If the council would like to ever do a ride-along with somebody to learn more about it, we're glad to put you in the trucks with us or whatever, okay? All right, any questions?
Any questions?
No, but thank you.
Just don't bite us.
Okay, like I said, we're willing to come back some other time if you want to hear just specific areas, but thank you for your attention.
Thank you so much. Hey, we can't thank you guys enough for coming out. We really appreciate it. All right, number 13. We need to designate a voting delegate for the League of California Cities. This is the conference that's happening September 7th. I'm going to turn it over to our Madam Clerk.
Thank you. I have a very long presentation tonight. I'm just kidding. I want to go home too. All right, so we need the council to discuss and appoint a voting delegate and up to 2 alternates. This is for the annual League of California Cities annual conference. It's going to take place September 7th through the 9th, and this year it will be in Long Beach. Currently, I believe 4 of you have registered to go. The city manager will be attending. I will be attending portions of it. So I just need the council to decide who you would like as the delegate and if you would like up to 2 alternates.
Who's the 4 that's going? Okay, that's all I need to know. So,
It's usually the mayor.
yeah, you know, because voting's on Friday.
Yeah.
And I have an obligation for work on Friday. I do work on that 9th, but I believe it's in the morning. When's voting?
It's usually right at noon.
So why don't, for this situation, why don't we have, if you're okay with it, being the guy? Are you okay?
Want me to do it?
Are
Sure.
you good with it?
Yeah.
And then I can, if I'm there, I can be with you and watch you be amazing. So I want to make the motion that we appoint Larry to be the voting delegate for Canyon Lake, Mayor Pro Tem Green. And then for the other 2?
Up to 2, you can.
Let's do.
I'll be an alternate.
Perfect. And then the up to 2, since he's not here, we'll just appoint Dale. He's watching, he's right there, and he's going to be happy we did that, so I'm glad he's going.
Perfect, so I
Does
have
that
a,
work?
yeah, I
Do
have
you
a
need, you
motion.
need a roll call or just a consensus?
If I can get a second?
Yeah, second, someone?
Second.
Perfect. Moving right along. All in
And just-
favor?
All in favor,
Say
please.
aye.
Aye.
Thank
Aye.
you.
All right, we did it. See? Great presentation. All right, moving on to, this is the business item that we added. Is that correct, Mr. City Manager? This is the urgency item.
Yes, that's right.
2022-46. I'm going to give this over to our city attorney.
Thank you.
Okay, can you hear me?
I got you.
Okay, so this is a request for the city council to appoint Jamar Boyd Weathersby of Jones Mayor as the city's hearing officer. Under the city's cannabis regulatory rules, the city council may appoint a hearing officer to hear appeals of decisions of the city manager related to that process. We've recently come to the conclusion of the process for the most part. And so we've been informed that we may be expecting an appeal of a decision or 2. We want to make sure that we're ready. The appeals have to be heard in a timely manner within 45 days of the appeal being made. And since the city council is not going to be having a meeting in August, we had to add this item to the agenda as soon as we were informed that we could be getting an appeal. The city staff is also recommending that the city council piggyback off of a recent RFP process that another city in Riverside County did to ensure that we're getting competitive prices for the hearing officer position. The backup should include a resolution that appoints the hearing officer and also sets the appeal fee estimated at 10 hours of the hearing officer's time, or $2,400. I'm happy to answer any questions the council may have.
All right. Any questions to staff? City council? Nope, we're prepped on this. We're good? Good. All right. Madam Clerk, are there any public comment cards on this item?
No cards.
I need a motion.
Motion. Second.
All right. I do need a roll call vote on this, and this is for resolution number 2022-46.
Councilmember Castillo?
Aye.
Councilmember Dane?
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Green?
Aye.
Mayor Smith?
Aye.
Motion carried to adopt resolution number 2022-46.
City manager comments.
In honor of 4th of July, which is passed, I would like to recite the Declaration of Independence and the Constitution of the United States in its entirety.
Your 3 minutes begins 3 minutes ago.
I'm done, thank you.
Love it. All right, council member comments. I'm going to go in the order at which Anna has written down on the piece of paper. No, I'm not. Russian roulette. Mayor Pro Tem Green, you are up.
Sorry about that.
We're having fun. It's 9:17.
Okay.
21,
Yeah,
yeah, right.
it was quite a month. 4th of July was quite a deal as far as the show and everything. I thought we had as safe as we possibly could. Wanted to, again, say congratulations to all of our staff, including our fire folks, because I think our presence was well appreciated. RCA had our meeting, and the main topic is the fee structures and all the things that are going with it, so there's going to be some new direction coming out. Also, we're trying to clarify the current position that RCA has said to some of its partner cities, specifically Canyon Lake and City of Riverside, as far as projects and what they had been sort of advised that what they needed to do and what's changed. And so we're trying to get back to what is the goal of RCA and What direction are we giving and moving towards, so it becomes a partner in helping instead of hindering? And that's it.
Perfect. Councilwoman Castillo.
Okay. I wrote this down, so I wouldn't forget anything. Grateful for the enhanced code enforcement, fire personnel, and law enforcement presence on the holiday weekend. I want to thank city staff and city manager for arranging that and listening to the community and responding accordingly. The second session of junior lifeguards is starting the 11th, which is on Monday. We had California State Parks come out last night to City Hall, have pizza, and meet with the parents. California State Parks lifeguard coordinators and lifeguards were on hand to pass out uniforms, answer questions, and we had a really great turnout. There was a lot of Canyon Lakers in the room, and then there were people from outside the city, so it was nice that that kind of regional approach was there. At the last session, the state park supervisor gave the city a shout out, so I wanted to relay that for bringing Canyon Lake to the program via the bus, since we were not yet able to bring the program to Canyon Lake. So I wanted to specifically thank Admin Services Manager Mike Borja for listening to me freak out about the busing all the time, and for Mayor Smith and President Burke for working on that coordination, making sure that those Canyon Lake kids have that opportunity. That's, I think, a phenomenal program, and I'm just very proud that the city was able to be involved in that, and thank you for paying for the buses. The 9/11 committee meeting is coming up, and I'm excited about that collaboration. And Veterans Day will be right behind it, so getting ready for that. Karen Bevins, looking at you. We'll see you on the committee. And then I just wanted to congratulate our city clerk for an awesome election. Ran very smoothly, and you made us very proud. And that's it.
Perfect. Councilwoman Dane.
I had the opportunity to attend my first WRCOG annual meeting.
Nice.
It was interesting. And happy about our 4th of July event. Pretty much my favorite day of the year. So happy that it was mostly safe, and appreciate the fire department and their extra effort in having control there. And just, I wanted to give a separate appreciation, thank you to the Canyon Lake Chamber. They've been working really hard and putting on some great events. I know Joseph talked about the speed networking event, and it was a great event. And I've been talking to, I'm a member of the chamber, but I've been talking to other people from other chambers too. And I think they're starting to build a buzz with people from other cities that are looking to join. So if anybody's watching, did a great job.
Thank you. 4th of July was incredible. It was cool. I think the Insider did pictures of every beach throughout Canyon Lake, and you got to see the guests and the homeowners and everyone enjoying the festivities. And it's just, I love the fact that our city, and I think, is the most patriotic city in all of California, probably United States, but I'm biased. Couple things to report. As everyone knows, I like to give the real estate update for Canyon Lake, so bear with me as you find out how much your homes are worth. The median price of a home in Canyon Lake as of June increased by 3.2%. Believe it or not, even with those rates as high as they are, we're now looking at a median price of $620,000. The average price to sell in June of this year was $741,000. The average price per square feet is $357. And Canyon Lake closed 17 sales last month, and the volume equaled just under 13 million. So things are still moving, even with rates the way they are. The market's extremely strong in Canyon Lake. As far as regional boards, the only thing I really have to report is I'll be going to DC in the next couple weeks on behalf of RTA to try to get us better transportation for the lifeguard program. I'm kidding. To secure some transportation dollars for our residents here in Riverside County. So I'll be advocating strongly for those lovely new earmarks that we're fighting for. So with that said, I am going to announce that our next council meeting will not be in August. It will be Wednesday, September 7th Closed session will be at 5 PM, and open session will be at 6:30. I'm going to adjourn the meeting at 9:23.